could be the team that ends up closing this out 2-0. But as Ollie mentioned, both these teams are comfortable on all of the maps we have in this series. So let's see how comfortable they are on the first. 4 Angry Men versus DAYSTAR. Nighthaven Labs will be our first map, with the former starting the attack and the latter starting on the defense. I have a little money on exterior breaching being a focus of these ban phases, Ollie.
The bans have been quite interesting so far because, and I was speaking about this yesterday, I think it was maybe potentially with Tim, and we were sort of saying that you can almost put attackers into different categories now. You've got a lot of disruption ops, you've got a lot of hard breaching ops, you've also got a lot of information ops, and it's very difficult to target all of those subsets. Yes. You kind of just got to pick one and roll with it, because if you start to sort of cherry pick here and there, it can get a little bit difficult. Now, I would say that this isn't cherry picked here and there.
No,
it's
not at all.
Quite decisive. You've gone for a Grim and a Capital ban, so you're getting rid of that disruption. Grim also falls into the information line, but he isn't part of the trifecta of those information ops that we often talk about.
No, the information he gives, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's important, but you flood the zone with all those bees with the primary purpose of getting information if they stay, but usually people don't, and you push them out of it. Say, Clubhouse Generator is a great example of that. You know somebody's playing behind Gen, but you don't throw the bees down there for the information that you already know. You throw it down there so you maybe clear out that position, and if they decide to say you have a more advantageous gunfight here, in this case with Grim and Capital being taken off the board, if we do see any focus on the breaching on the IT wall, not having those smoke bolts in particular will be problematic, because of course, as we saw from 4 Angry Men, the focus on the exterior breaching came from one team. 4 AM taking down the Cade and the Bandit. So I imagine we will see them bring at least some hard breaching to start, though, obviously, as you can see, not as much focus as you might otherwise think. Just the Hibana and then maybe some secondaries in somebody's possession.
Yeah, it's strange not to bring the Ace for this, really. I think the Ace is obviously, when available, the premier choice for getting things open. Hibana, it's a job that can be done as well, but no tin openers. You kind of a little bit limited here. I usually like seeing connector open. I like seeing electrical open. I like seeing, you know, that side a little bit more vulnerable and not somewhere that the defense can just sort of sit and chuck C4s from afar. We've got a little bit of mini games around that as well with the mirror window. That's going to make the breaching a little bit more difficult. And again, one of the reasons why you're going to try and bring the Hibana for this endeavor. You're not going to have as many chances if you do bring the Ace. So there is rhyme and reason to the decisions that are being made right now. But already 4 Angry Men just coming up against a little bit of obstacle. And for me, yesterday, it was some of the basics for both of these teams that were kind of tripping them up a little bit on the attack.
When if you look at the basics right now, I mean, Rockstar obviously lost 8x Kairos out the gate with that impact grenade going outside of the mirror window. Now he's used another 8 on the connector wall. He only has those extra 2. So the only way you're getting in is through that tiny hole in the connector wall. This IT breach is going to remain solid for the rest of the round. And that's going to make Souffle's job a lot easier, who did the impacts out the gate. He's going to be able to rotate a lot more effectively, but also not really focus on IT as much, since he doesn't have to worry about anybody getting through.
Real nice play from DAYSTAR as well. They've held a pocket reinforcement, and they've actually used that now to block off connector. So they're even more limited now in really what you've got and angles that you're going to be able to push through. And then when you start to throw into the mix that there's a clash knocking about, those single doorways start to become really restrictive, and you're not going to want to be making that challenge, especially when time starts to run short. We need to see them get a little bit of presence here inside of the bottom of warehouse.
And it's going to need to be this Glass and this Ying that opens things up. You can see the Candelas prepped. Ash Charge going out to destroy the barbed wire, facilitates some kind of entry. Still trying to channel some of that impact from yesterday, but so close on the door. Got to be careful. In a position right now where DAYSTAR don't have to do a lot to really keep the pressure on 4 Angry Men. They don't want to overplay their hand. Ooh, Pecan with the prone around the corner. Lyta completely caught off guard, and that's one of that two-prong approach that I mentioned now falling down. Darsley still with 3 Candelas, but without having that Glass through the smoke. Wherever Darsley decides to commit, wherever he throws his utility, you won't have somebody to match any push on the other side. Seal still getting aggressive, will fall to Rockstar. You got something there, but this 2-man push between the Clash and the Ella. Got to give credit to 4 Angry Men for keeping it close and keeping these trades solid. But so long as this Clash is in the way, they're always going to face some difficulty. But hold on. TX suddenly backstabbing, finds 2. Now it is just Souffle left. Taking a 1v1 on the Aqua stairs, but the attacker can come and pinch from behind. 4 Angry Men, despite basically having no workable breaches, wins that with the kills?
TX is at 2 life shots there to get that one over the line, haven't they? Unbelievable. Rotating everything around, realizing, okay, we've not really understood the assignment here. The mirror is going to be a pain. It is going to mirror trick us. They're going to open the mirror window and throw those impact grenades out of the breach. We have to come up with a plan B. And you could see that Gotti was very quick to react. He was playing that Ash, knew that he had to get himself underneath and start to work something, whether that was going to be inside of the fish side or whether it was going to be inside of the warehouse side. It ended up being on that fish side. Pikanzu's done a brilliant job. Maybe just a little bit overplayed their hand ever so slightly and should have buddied up a little bit more with Souffle, because as soon as the clash is left in the 2 versus 1 there, you've no choice. You've got to plank that shield down and you've just got to try and make a play happen, but the pinch was already working from both sides.
Well, 4 Angry Men coming out of round 1 with a victory that I honestly did not expect once we got about 45 seconds to a minute into round 1, and I imagine they will be over the moon to get away with that one. Now looking down to the basement site, DAYSTAR will change things up quite dramatically. No Clash, no Mira whatsoever. Instead, we have an Azami entering the field with also a lot of utility focused on the site, the Vulcan Pack and Toxic Canister combination. So we'll likely have, at least in terms of that utility focused on the site, with and the Mozzie, of course, and likely Bin as well on that Goyo, having placed all of his utility roaming around the middle floor. We'll see what the exact setup is, though, but so far, this isn't breaking any trends for Bedroom. We do have a heavy roam presence, though, with basically a lot of the players by staircases so they can retreat pretty quickly.
Should be fairly straightforward to get the walls open this time. Rockstar's not going to waste any time. We're getting safe straight down there and start to open up the site and the Animus wall. Darsley going to be looking at a bit more of a full map clear here. He's got himself on top of that kitchen hatch, and he's going to be looking to try and get a bit of an angle onto Pikanzu. Lion Scan coming in here as well. That's just going to route him to the spot for the moment. And if Lida starts to continue on that Monty, it could be a little bit of a problem right now. There's still live information on this Legion here inside of Cafeteria.
I mean, you can see this push already forming. You can see the Monty moving on the opposite side. You've got a player holding his cutoff on the window. I mean, Seal can maybe provide some kind of support by shutting off a different angle, but Pecan very leery of this, taking another fight with Rockstars. The Monty comes from the back. Excellent pinch by 4 Angry Men. Now looking to deal with some of these other players moving about the first floor. Mine will not do much, though, as Lida backs off.
It's quite good timing there from 4 Angry Men. They've not really wasted too much time. They have spent all the Lion Scans, though, so that's something to be mindful of, because there are still players out here on the roam. Look at Bin's position right now. He's all the way upstairs inside a server. The site is pretty light at the minute, and depending on Lida's pathing, if they just choose to go for something more direct, it could be a bit of a problem.
Could be an issue as Seal gets another kill onto Darsley, and with Gotti preoccupied on the top floor, he seems to understand that there's a player up there, but Lida's moving with the mission down below, and that means just as the site is weak, you don't have as many attackers as you might otherwise believe. Lida's only pushing at the bottom of an Exo, but is now quite separate from the rest of his team, cut off by the smoke canisters. On shield for a second, threaten to push against Souffle. As one of his teammates now joins. 417 ripping into the smoke through that soft wall. TX finding some good damage, though now the defenders coming from behind. Lida doing the most on this Monty right now. And as TX checks his flank, another one goes the way of 4 Angry Men. Might be a trade from DAYSTAR, but 4AM have accomplished their mission. They've taken control of the site. Unfortunately, the defense has minimal options to retake from these vertical angles, especially with the Monty on board. It was always going to be difficult. Rockstar finds another through the angle, and Bin in a 1v3 that seems like it's a foregone conclusion.
Unfortunate position that Bin finds himself in here. This was the player that was all the way on that top floor. We'll find one onto Rockstar. It isn't confirmed just yet. There we go. Double on the round, but to get the kills required from this point, Lida just needs to harass, just needs to be a pain with that shield, and can't give any angles up. 16 seconds on the clock, and now that final kill comes in. Gotti has to make a play, but look how far away he is, Lynx. He's absolutely not. He comes off the kit, though. Now time is not going to be a factor. There's not going to be enough of it left. I don't know. I wonder if that was stuck. We could have seen a very different end to the round.
Well, and you can see how close it would have come, because he was over the halfway point once Gotti actually made it closer to the diffuser. But Gotti preemptively went around the corner and tucked, anticipating the Goyo to fall off the counter diffuse. Now, if Gotti just decides to call that bluff, it's possible he sticks it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I could also see the snake whipping around the corner and taking him down with like 0.5 seconds remaining. But and this is just thinking hypothetically. I don't think either player made a wrong move, but that came down really close. And if we want to take a look as we get into this later portion, I really think there might have been a possibility he could have stuck it. It would have been close, but he could have.
Bin did the most work. We don't actually get to see at the moment that they come off. But still he's in a bit of a tricky position there. I mean, he has to just wait for the time. You know, he has to wait for that 7-second mark to tick and then can make a play. there is chance to sort of come off the diffuser, bang a headshot, and get straight back on it and have enough time. But 4 Angry Men getting away with another round there. I say getting away with, I think they played it really well. There was really good focus on the Roma. They singled somebody out and just threw everything at dealing with that person. And then we're like, you know what? We could probably just push the site here. The walls were already open. There was a clear cut off through site. Souffle had a really tough job. He used all 3 Toxic Babe canisters in like, what, 10 seconds? Really trying to stop the Monty from pushing down, but what's Laddie going to do? He's just going to walk right through it, right? There was no real consequence to doing anything but that. So 2 rounds on the rip here for 4 Angry Men to kick off their attacking phase on Nighthaven Labs. Can they make it 3 with back up, as we're going back upstairs? A bit of a reattempt here from DAYSTAR.
A bit of a reattempt, and you can, well, at least see one adjustment. 4 Angry Men bringing a different form of hard breaching, but not more hard breaching. Depends on how you quantify it. I mean, Rockstar with a 3 exothermic certainly will create a bigger hole in the wall. Especially no Mira, not as susceptible to impact tricking. So hopefully we'll see a bit more success from 4 Angry Men. I mean, they got the round last time having like basically no workable hard breach. So the fact that they've got both these walls open now, and also, to your point, what we saw from them last time, the way they really well coordinated and understood their win condition, the weak site set up, the roam players, now that they have these breaches, the fundamentals were already good in the way the first round. Round 3 might be excellent. I'm
really surprised to not see the mirror from DAYSTAR because it worked really well to keep them out, and they weren't too far away from winning the round. Now they've sort of just given everything up and said, you know what, just take it. Bring the thermite. You get 3 exothermics now. You can really open up everything. And already, we're not even at the halfway point. Connector wall's getting open into sight. We've got Darsley pressuring with that 612, a devastating weapon inside of Electric. Now we're starting to see a little bit of utility move around, and Souffle can get into position with a couple of these Yokai drones. We've also got Bin fairly tucked there on the Thorn. This is a position we often see shotguns play. We often see the SAS operators there, but Thorn is still capable of dishing out a hell of a lot of damage with that Uzi.
But it's a situation where it might favor Darsley. If he's the one pushing around the corner, he's got the shotgun that's normally favored in that engagement. So to your point, the Uzi packs a punch, but we'll see how well the Ying can navigate around this. Smokes and Candela's going through. The Glaz and the Ying instead pushing in tandem rather than separate like last time. Ooh, the Yokai spots at the last second, but it's actually Lyda to swing around the corner. Despite all the information, if Bin is blinded, there's not a whole lot he can do. The Pecan on this flank, the attack's so focused, they'll fall into the players inside of the site. Pecan only gets 1. The flank isn't all that impactful in the grand scheme of things, but only in comparison to the excellence of the anchor players. A double for Pecan. His effort should not be undermined. Now it is Gotti in the 1v2. Not the powerful position that 4 Angry Men had in round 1. Working back with so little. Instead, the defense ready for this kind of push. Now a diffuser control in their hands. 1 or 2 smokes will go out as 2 players stacked behind the pillar. It's Pecan with his 3rd to get it from Connector. DAYSTAR's first round. And again, coming at a point where it seemed like 4 Angry Men had everything they could possibly want.
I don't think they'd accounted for the flank, had they? They'd not accounted for that big play from Picanzu. And they'd also not really accounted for anything beyond, okay, let's get Connector open, let's get electrical control, and let's start to push him from there. Yes, they had IT breach open, but again, nothing inside a warehouse, nothing on the catwalk, and nothing on the fish side. And the fish side was where a lot of the success was last time. That backstab is often a very crucial element. It does come in late. You have to rotate around. You're often required to be doing something elsewhere for the portion of the round. You can't just sit in and around fish stairs and wait to backstab. You have to be active on it, and they were just missing that little bit of an element. Things like the Yokai drone, of course, played a huge role because that then calls a lot as clear. You can see Picanzu here coming through, picking up that kill on the flank. Akazu, he got a couple of it for himself as well. Everyone playing very consolidated in and around that pillar.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, a lot of it came from Azuki, who I believe on the Wamai was playing in the other site. So if you have that backstab, it's entirely possible that Azuki, instead of having that gun trained towards Connector, now even if he takes down the player backstabbing, his gun's going to be trained on a different position. So I think the point you raised about the lack of any extra dimension around Aqua might have been the thing that really cost it for 4 Angry Men. Still up 2-1 though, and DAYSTAR with a very good, I suppose, just kind of like read of that late round, understanding that the attack was pushing off in one direction, and logically they trained all their guns on that position. Another repeat as we go down to basement, the other site that DAYSTAR lost on their initial gambit. We'll see how it fares now. Again, not a whole lot of changes in the lineup as Mira has been banned, but we already saw her kind of fall by the wayside in the last couple rounds. And it seems here we do have, some changes insofar as I think operators have changed hands, but I think it's actually, all things considered, the only difference is the Warden.
Yeah, we've got the Warden into the fray now as well. That's perfectly matched. We've got the Blitz. So that's going to be a little nice little counterplay going on there. There was a little bit of smoke action as well previously when we saw this site, so it makes a little bit of sense to bring the Warden in for that. I like the mirror ban. I think that makes quite a good deal of sense. It was a big sort of disruption factor for 4 Angry Men, even though they'd still end up winning the round, but that's not the style, that's not the way that they want to be continuing to get those rounds on the board. Again, the big shock for me here, it's just the Hibana. They're limiting a little bit on what they're going to be able to open with those breaches, when previously we saw nice big breach for Animus, nice big breach for Sight. You give yourself that option for the cutoff. I imagine that they're going to likely try and single somebody out again, but instead of the Lion, they're bringing the Deimos. So it's going to be a little bit more information based, and it's going to be a little bit more targeted to who's being hunted here.
4 Angry Men, ooh, good kill by Gotti. 4 Angry Men also going for a half clear right now. You can see them clearing out part of the second floor, but not really looking towards generator, electrical, or anything over by the house side. So they'll kind of keep the control around garage that they have and likely hold off flanks otherwise. Also shifting attacking strategies quite drastically. The only shield we saw beforehand was the slow pushing Monty. Now instead rotating to the Blitz with quick entries by TX with that M59. But unfortunately Rockstar going down. Half clear not as solid as 4 Angry Men thought. Been able to find some success walking out of Electrical. Could find another. Losing a lot of HP, but not his life to TX. Unfortunately, those 6 shots run out quite quickly, and maybe going for another Zofia outside. Lida will land the trade. Now Darsley going down on the Blitz. Another round that collapses for 4 AM.
Devastating play there from Bin on that second floor again. He's had huge impact this time. It was the last man standing previously because everyone from 4 Angry Men circumnavigated the roamers and went directly to the site. Now with Lida getting that kill, it really opens things up. The pacing so far has been quite good from 4 AM. You look at the time, there's still 50 seconds left on the clock here for them to work with, and they've still got some toys to play with. Got a couple of tin openers if required. It looks like everything should be open that's needed to be right now. Gotti's got a really nice position at the moment. Lida with the kit, they just need to try and buddy up.
Ooh, but Gotti's going to push in quite heavily, fighting the L around the corner. They buddy up at the last second, but just because the angle of that reinforcement, the angle Gotti was at, it's difficult to get that trade given Lida's positioning. DAYSTAR tie things up 2 in a row, repeating the exact same sides we played, and this should mean we finally get our 3rd in round 5.
DAYSTAR understanding the assignment there. They had a really nice link play. There was no need for anything fancy. There was no need for anything too extravagant. They knew where the attackers were coming from, and they were able to play a sufficient crossfire. Gotti and Lida, they had more time than that. There was 50 seconds. They had time to try and work something. You could have even looked to try and play a little bit of vert on there if there was anything knocking around. I think you still had some lifelines available as well for that factor. And as soon as you've got things on the table that you still use, I mean, look,
both concussions too.
Still concussions. Yes, okay, you've used the explosive aspect of it, but and it was the striker as well. So you've always got something kicking around on a striker.
And if you also look at the positioning of the lifelines, obviously they didn't have completely perfect information, but could have sent around that reinforcement, would have got that. And also, the Azami was rotating between either side of that soft wall between the site and tank. And because there was a hole in the wall, actually, if he had just shot that lifeline through the door, it would have got the Azami no matter which room she was in because of how close she was playing. So again, just one of those moments where even if that doesn't happen, some really important utility not only to gather information, but even to potentially concuss some of the defenders that was left on the table by 4 AM. A lot of time, as you said, but unfortunately getting a little bit ahead of themselves. Game is still tied, and it could break either way, as we will have a new site being played by DAYSTAR after they won the top floor and the bottom floor. It seems that 4 AM feel confident in this rotation to the Blitz play, but will drop the Deimos and instead look to clear a little bit more utility by subbing in Twitch. And if you look at what DAYSTAR is bringing, you can't really blame them, can you?
It's horrible, isn't it? A horrible lineup right there, just so trap focused. And then the Vigil just chucked in for good measure for a nice little bit of disruption and some unsurety. It's not the kind of lineup that you want to be playing against, and it's going to force you into things like a Twitch, isn't it? The nades on Lion, they're going to be important. If you can get some information, know where something is, nade around the corner, destroy a Grismot, destroy a Banshee, whatever it might be, you're going to want to try and make that work as well. So bit of a tough lineup to be headed up against here for 4 AM, but they aren't going to have any problem getting anything open, that much is for sure. Breach can now be opened into the bottom of Warehouse. Pikanzu, thinking about a little bit of a run outside here. He's got a really good idea of where at least 2 players are, and I think if he's patient, he might find one. Oh, gets burned there. That's the power of the DMR. Darsley, welcome to the scoreboard. That's his first of the game, and an important one to give an opening kill for round 5.
They gave him the 417 for that reason. Like, if you land a pre-fire, you are not losing that fight. And so they'll take him down in the process. DAYSTAR might not lose a whole lot of utility, but will lose their top performer and lose somebody who maybe had a little bit more flexibility than some of the other players. We'll have to see if that's the case. F0 will go out, but with that shield, Lyda, not even opting to destroy the F0. Concerned about the players that might be up front. So pushing deeper into the second floor. Has a Fenrir and an Ella on the opposite side. Might be pinched by 4AM, but if you look at the time, not nearly as, I think, efficient as things have been previously, and clearly DAYSTAR's layering of the second floor with traps has been quite effective so far. Only a minute remaining as 4AM get control of Garage, and they have a man advantage. That should be said, but they lack not only the ability to gather a lot of vertical angles, but also just lack vertical angles in general.
I'm really surprised to see how much they're ignoring the two players that are inside of Fish. I thought we were going to see Lyda just make a beeline for those two players with a couple of people backing him up and just start to destroy him. Instead, they've juggled the diffuser around, and Lyda's now threatening the site. There's still defenders down here, though, and there's no vert that's been made to start to deal with him. With only 35 seconds here, it's not going to be very easy to make anything happen, especially with TX now falling. All the attackers arguing around this warehouse area at the minute, but they've not done anything about the vert.
No, you still have Seal watching this important position, though Lyda moving from the opposite side. Play around the corner, he'll call Gotti into position, and that allows him to go for the plant. Neither Azuki or Seal in a position to get this vertical play from below, and with no C4s either. That's a big frag by the Ella, but Lyda's already got out of the building. Can sit there with his shield and maybe peek around the corner. Not a lot of good secondary utility to deal with this either. Only exception is the Gershmot. Azuki could throw that out the window, throw it on one of the doors just to try and act like a pseudo-lifeline. But all of DAYSTAR have retreated quite far back. One player outside the breach, one player outside the window, and another player is so far back, I don't even know where he is. This guy's prone on the top floor, probably looking through some vertical angle onto the diffuser. They have been waiting so patiently. They want to guarantee this tied half. And with 3 seconds remaining, and DAYSTAR haven't even attempted the counter defuse. That's a nice frag by Seal, but we are now officially beyond the pale. Gotti will confirm it, and 4AM guarantee themselves a 3-3 half.
4AM have understood the win condition of round 5 absolutely beautifully. Yes, they didn't have the vert. They knew that there was nobody below. They juggled the diffuser around, and they were happy to take a chance. Because if you get the plant down on that site, it is by far and away the most difficult site in the game to retake.
It sucks.
It's next to a window. Upside down rappel. Just playing passively outside the window. You don't even need to be on the rappel. And especially if you're on the blitz, you're going to take the advantage of just being on the ground. It's so difficult to try and retake onto that denying the plant is the only option for a defender. Either that or a hero play, or a significant blunder by the attack. Neither of those were seen, and instead 4AM understood the assignment, realized, okay, they're holding on upstairs quite hard. If we can just find a gap, if we can just find a few seconds to plant this diffuser with a little bit of disruption going on elsewhere, we are going to be just fine. And it's exactly what they were able to do.
And now, with things looking up for 4AM, able to deal with those trap operators quite effectively. Now we go back to the site that has proven a little bit more difficult than I think we might have expected. Obviously, basement also proved problematic when 4AM re-attempted to attack it in round 4. But this one was a bit surprising. They had all the breaching they wanted. All of DAYSTAR were inside of the site. Yet the last time they played it, 4AM ended up kind of bottlenecking themselves in through the connector breach, and the round just kind of fell apart after that. Now we see a pretty sizable shift in terms of what they're bringing. We've got the Thermite that was so good for the breaching before. We've still got the Ying, which has been a mainstay, but we also have the introduction of the Blackbeard and the Deimos. Either of these could be great backstabbing operators, and we'll see if that's what 4AM end up doing. Gotti could also be good for applying vertical pressure, but hopefully based off these operators we're bringing, I think this might be 4AM recognizing what was really the one only problem with their attack last time.
And we're starting to see something like a Ying come into the fray as well. It gives that little element of disruption. They're not just going to be able to sit around and all sort of play in and around pillar, because DAYSTAR, they have been quite tight. They have been quite condensed when they've been in these defensive positions. And that's fine. There's no real problem with that. But throw a Candela into that, and if everyone's blind, all of a sudden you've got some pretty significant problems to deal with. Again, we're seeing the breaches open. We know that that's going to be fairly straightforward now with the bans that 4 Angry Men have given themselves. They have opted to make this a lot easier than it otherwise could have been. Rockstar, a little bit concerned about Electric, but I don't think it's going to slow them down too much for getting that connector wall open into sight and into the back of Pillar. Darsley, in this prime position again. I want to see more value out of these Candelas this time. Especially when it's a player like Binbin on the Thorn. There's not too much that they're going to be able to do if a Candela starts rolling around the corner.
Which is why you see them back up. Also, want to point out, been playing this position again, but has switched to the M870, whereas before they had the Uzi. I think this will be a better weapon for playing this close position on both the breach and the door. So it could be a bit more threatening if Darksley or anybody tries to go around the corner. But of course, last time he was completely blinded by the Candelas, so that's not really going to be affected all that much by what gun you bring. Minute 10 seconds remaining now, and I mean, if we take a look, it's still a bit of a linear push on the generator side. We got 3-4 players over here. TX working up to that breach. Picana's going to hear this player on the prone, might even catch him swinging around the corner. The Nomad not ready. And DAYSTAR beginning this push with a 5v4. Again, Lyda just walking in. No additional angle, no massive disruption. Darksley threw some Candelas and some smokes, but once he gets hit by the Yokai, he's stunned completely, shield exposed, and the Blackbeard goes down. Basically minimal effort by the defense. Rotating another Yokai over as 4AM might have another shot at this. Two different shotguns and Rockstar holding this long angle. It could work, but Souffle in a perfect position to deny the flant. Darksley ready for it. Souffle gonna play passive, halfway gone. The Demo should spot it once it goes down, sees the Yokai, takes it down, and another bite at the apple. Seal in the meantime will get a very important kill as this puts all of the pressure on Gotti. Actually, never mind. The other Yokai's alive. I thought it got taken down in the process. Both of the Echo's primary utility are remaining. DAYSTAR with a 3v2, make that a 3v1 man advantage, and it is all tied up on Nighthaven.
DAYSTAR just quite literally have to wait until the opportune moment there. They knew exactly where everybody was. They knew exactly what the game plan. It was the same game plan that we've seen previously. It was exactly the same as what we saw in round number 3. No major changes. No major operator changes. Just play around the Yokai. We're going to get to listen to both these teams.
Sorry, I need some time to plug back the mic.
It's okay.
All right. Okay, their attack. Remember that Doka is sneaking alone on lobby. Okay. They focus basement. Where they go full clear jungle plus aqua plus IT. Okay. They want to full clear the map every time. Stock again. Doka lobby alone. They full clear the top, jungle, IT. They don't care about site until everything's clear top, so beware on this on our positions. Top, they either have jungle IT push and Doka goes blue, or the blue IT push with Ibana cutting game window below, okay? Remember, we said on the bans, Grim plus Ace or Capitao. Keep up the good comm, okay? We're trying to find solutions. Beware. They found that flanks were working on our attacks, so I'm pretty sure that Doka.
然后你记得啊，那个地下点的时候，我们2楼要抢快 ，OK， 抢快先垂直，然后同步率做好，垂直压力到的时候，平面也要推 ，OK。对 ，Good， Good，
好。
皮烟狗。不是，我这里听到回音诶，超燥的啊！我一直听到回音啊，很燥诶。不知道谁的回音 ？Echo。
我估计也只能是我的，只有我没有用他们的。哎，没有苏菲没用。
Echo。
那我觉得苏菲。
超怪。
我的麦应该比苏菲好一点。
Echo。你知道为什么讲那么多次吗？
不知道。
因为 Echo 啊，回音超烂，是烂梗。啊。然后他们说得到，今天输了，我从那栋红色建筑物跳下去。
Well, with that being done, the players discussing, well, the players and the coach, don't exclude the coach. With that being done, the players and coach discussing. One thing I always love about listening to those TAC timeouts, obviously the insight you can get, but for this in particular, we heard 4AM talking about the bans they want to do, and you hear Eden talking about Dokkaebi a lot. Dokkaebi. And you'd think, well, why don't they just ban the Dokkaebi? They know it's going to be a problem, right? But it's one of those nice things where, like, if you know based on your prep that a team is going to bring Dokkaebi, well, you can control that as a variable. You know it's going to be in the lineup, so you ban other things. I love learning these little tidbits.
I must admit, I really like Eden's timeouts because they're very. We're biased because obviously I don't understand round-based timeouts.
True.
But I understand Eden's timeouts because it's English, thankfully, and it's very chill. There is zero amp. It is just so matter of fact. It is so relaxed, and I think it probably keeps the team in a really nice headspace. Some teams like the whooping and the hollering. Some teams like the getting hyped and it's sort of using that energy. But I think in a best of 3 early in the morning, you've kind of got to temper that a little bit, especially knowing that you want to be playing a game later on this afternoon as well. So very matter of fact there from Eden. And again, it seems like they've got some very good homework done on DAYSTAR, doesn't it? They were they want to clear, they want to flank. These, you know, they're not going to do anything with the site until this is cleared. They have some very clear win conditions right now, and it's going to be good to see if 4AM can start to try and execute on them. Obviously, we could sit here and say the same for DAYSTAR. It's just unfortunate I don't understand. So we're a little bit left in the dark with that one. But 3-3 on the half is a decent scoreline regardless. And I think both teams are going to be fairly happy with that moving into the second half of proceedings here. Already getting rid of a bit of that barbed wire on the bottom of those warehouse stairs. Bottom warehouse, we didn't really see an attacker in bottom warehouse, and I was kind of surprised about it because it can be a really good, powerful position. Nice to see that cleared off straight away here from DAYSTAR, just giving themselves options for later on.
It's quite good to see that that level of foresight. Oh, classic. Somebody will have to, I think, go down and destroy some of that soft wall. Hopefully that'll be okay, though. Indeed it will. Secondary shotgun. One thing we heard mentioned during the timeout was the possibility of a Dokkaebi being brought by DAYSTAR. Don't really see her in this round, but I think the greater possibility with the Dokkaebi is, sure, the phone calls, but also the fact that she might go lurk. And I think the fact that we see DAYSTAR trying to clear out that barbed wire on bottom staircase, what the Dokkaebi represents is still very much a possibility that if the defense is so focused on, say, a generator push, like we saw 4AM doing a lot, you might have somebody sneak up those garage stairs and try and go for a flank. TX getting quite aggressive on the garage single door, but there's a player like all the way outside, upside down rappel. Instead, it's Azuki from down below who gets a line onto the Azami, and while there are two players in garage, is going to put a lot more pressure on Gotti, who himself is trying to get aggressive on IT, and now with him down, I think we're going to see quite a lot of presence in this area, Ali.
4AM are challenging stuff that they don't really need to be challenging right now. Darsley just getting away with it there. He had a nice angle onto the top single, coming into the top of catwalk. Seal is tempted for a bit of a walkthrough here, but there's no rush about things. There's a minute 15 left on the clock. Default camera, finally going to be dealt with. I'm always a bit of a stickler for the old default cam. Azuki, he's going to be starting to make his way up this garage as well. So, zero garage presence from when 4AM were attacking, and this has been a main focus right now from DAYSTAR. So much so, they're even going to start to open the wall at the top of that catwalk as well. Big play required here from Lider, and he will find one onto Bimbin. It needs to be the first of a couple, though.
Needs to be the first of a couple, indeed. It's only a 4v3. One thing you can see, Pecan all the way on the backside. So as opposed to 4AM on their attack, we've got a bit of a backstab, but Lida doing his best to deal with the front. And that leaves two players in garage, but only a 1v1 on the backside. This is a must-win fight for Pecan. The defense is going to be so much more scattered if he can win this, but if Rockstar can give them this peace of mind, we can even see them double up, but he just wins it first out the gate. Framing head level with the F2, wins it within the first 10 shots. But again, the alternative angle falls. They leave Azuki by himself, and now they're in the same position as before. Doubled up, the same angle. The defenders can watch both of these positions. And now Soufflé in the 1v2, not a whole lot, even with the information. Lida has completely bullied them at the beginning, and Darsley finishes it at the end.
You can't help but think that DAYSTAR have just squandered the time that they had available to them then. They have to try and split up. They have to try and have a second dimension to the push, because if Lida's playing in IT, hitting shots like that, you can't challenge them one by one. You either challenge together, you challenge with a utility, or you just entirely ignore it and go somewhere else. We didn't really see DAYSTAR do either of those three options. They challenged it solo, they didn't challenge it with utility, and then they went somewhere else when it was a little bit too late and there was no other option. So, kind of hurts a little bit to see, because I think the opening portion of the round was fantastic. We got great control of warehouse. Very easy to get the breach open. We've got a K-Bandit ban. It's the exact same bans, interestingly, as we saw on the flip side of this game. So, no real surprise there. The breaching is going to be fairly straightforward. It's what you do after that that really matters. And I don't think you can allow Lida just to continually swing IT breach and get away with it.
No, it's unfortunate, especially when you saw DAYSTAR getting a lot of the right ideas, trying to diversify a lot of those angles, and with Lida winning 1v1s like that, or even Gotti going down in the later round, even though you've got the right plan, if a player's winning gunfights like that, there's not a whole lot you can do. It's a first-person shooter, and if somebody's getting shot, well, that's just really unfortunate, isn't it? Now, continuing with the site rotation, down to the basement, after 4 angry men win their first attempt of the top floor. Now we see the entry of the Dokkaebi and Big Shock, joined by Solid Snake being brought by Pecan. We've also got the Zero in play, though. A whole lot of information being brought by DAYSTAR. Not only Soufflé, who can be good with those flank cams, but also the active intel gathering of the Dokkaebi and the Snake, respectively. A lot of vertical play as well. The Sledge and the Ram. Not a common combination. I feel like the Buck Ram may be more of a thing, but I suppose with the Sledge, you got the nade, the secondary pistol.
I think sometimes it's a bit personal preference as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think that there's anything really wrong with bringing the Sledge in this day and age.
Not at all.
The Zero for me, I love Zero because you just forget it exists and then you see it and you're like, oh yeah.
Oh,
we still have Zero.
He's got 6 cameras.
Yeah, we still have Zero.
That's a lot of utility.
Like a Swiss Army knife of utility. Like you say, information aplenty here, especially the Snake. Can't believe it's the first time we're seeing Snake played today, by the way. For how much hype and talk there has been about this operator. I mean, it makes sense that they get first blooded inside of the first minute.
Well, and it's funny. We did see him one time earlier, but he literally was so focused on a roamer on the top floor. I think we cut to him for like literally 0.5 seconds. We're like, this guy's not doing anything. And then we just left. So Snake has had a very minimal impact today, to your point. And now with Dokkaebi also seemingly going down next, I mean, this is already a rough start for such powerful operators. Zero, though. Hey, out of the 3 Intel operators, who's the one who gets a kill? My man.
And the last one standing in round 8 at the minute. He's going to have to be the last one standing for a while as well if they're going to try and drag this one back. 3 versus 4 right now. Angry Men firmly in the driver's seat. Starting to get a little bit of the breach, a little bit of the soft floor open and starting to try and work down onto that site. But, I mean, I just worry about this lineup from all sorts of different sides. The fact that we've got 2 tin openers when attacking basement, I mean, there's plenty of things that we could just... We need 20 minutes to really sort of dissect this. That was some great nade usage. If you're going to use one, you may as well use 2. Guarantees the kill on Darsley and removes any toxic babe canisters that were left lingering around. It also levels up the time. Now they can start to pick away at some of this site utility. Those Vulcan packs are going to be a big one. And this is where Zero really comes into their own, because if they've got accurate information as to where players are hiding, it's going to make this drop a lot easier.
Continuing vertical angles as well, trying to isolate this Azami, pushing Lida back further underneath the cargo stairs. Seal finding them. DAYSTAR have been working these past 20 seconds so perfectly. From the nade play to the vertical angles, making every second count. But then Souffle drops with the diffuser, falls to Rockstar, and it all might still be squandered. Binbin picks it back up, but with only 1 player left alive, he's got to drop down off those vertical angles, which gives flexibility to the defense. Gotti with an important victory, and unfortunately, DAYSTAR, despite how well they played the past 40 seconds, the final 10 are what matter most, as 4AM continue their streak on defense.
Those Kiba barricades really putting in the most work there. It's so... that's one of the reasons why Azami is so egregious, because you can just entirely change the landscape of the site. You're not peeking down and dropping down into tank and seeing those Kiba barriers every single round. But when you do, it's so annoying and it's a pain to deal with. DAYSTAR recognizing things aren't really going their way at the moment and they need to break that on this attacking side. And they're going to choose now to take that tactical timeout. Don't forget, we, of course, have the halfway point as well, so it's only a couple of rounds after that, but they can't let this lead slip too much in the favour of 4 Angry Men, because so far, whilst there have been some good positives from the attack links, the general sentiment is rounds aren't being won.
And it's kind of a difficult position, I mean, not only for them, but also for us, because, like, that last 40 seconds was objectively great. They were getting all the vertical angles. They were isolating those defenders. And then it's just small things like little timings. This is something you and I were talking about before the game, is that both of these teams, but even like DAYSTAR against Falcons, seemed like the fundamentals were generally pretty sound, but it was just some of those 3-2-1s that were a little bit mistimed, a little bit of a gap here, a little bit of a delay there. And it's something small, something so minuscule that spending, even the amount of time I'm talking about, it can feel like you're harping on something that's like really minor in the grand scheme of things. But when it's happening with 10, 15 seconds left, it might end up defining the whole round, even if everything before that was really quite good, which for DAYSTAR, a lot of the fundamentals have been good. On the first, second floor, we saw, a lot of different angles that players tried to push from and really just losing fights at the end of the day. And that one, a lot of the positioning and communication was really quite good, and it was just another small thing. So to your point, if the rounds are being won, you've got to find some way around it, as this might be 4 Angry Men's pick, but they are 2 rounds away from closing this out in regulation. And given the similarity that Nighthaven and Clubhouse have, it's possible they'll be comfortable there too.
I think with the maps, it was, like I said at the top, it's difficult to say who prefers, who's really won the veto stage, if you want to go that far. But DAYSTAR know that this is a map that they're comfortable on as well, and they can't just sort of let it fall by the wayside. And just
especially 7-3 potentially. Yeah,
just because it's 4AM's pick doesn't mean that it's got to be a 4AM win. So they really do need to start to sharpen up a little bit here. Hopefully, that little minute with Harambe will have sorted them out a little bit when they turn their attention to this mid-floor. And they're not going to be trying to bring the kitchen sink in terms of you know, sort of information operators or anything too fancy. That really hasn't been working for him so far. I think it's a good time to sort of drop back to a few basics and just go, okay, great, what do we want to achieve in this round? Full clear, get a little bit of map control, kill a roamer or two, and start to work. Remember, this is the site that 4AM themselves got away with a worldy plant on. You don't need to do the most work on storage to come away with a round as an attacker.
But if you recall from Eden's timeout, it's also something that they anticipated. Eden said that they love to go for the full clears and they won't execute site before then. Even though they're changing things, even though the Dokubi's gone, the Snake is gone, as you can see, they're going for that full clear. They're not going for some quick Ying play or some quick execute play, and you can see that the defense is completely ready for that. Darsley pre-aims that angle, crouched, Azuki immediately falls, and now all the defense's guns are trained on Generator because that's the next likely position that the attack is going to push from. You can see the game plan that 4AM have articulated in that timeout is not really being changed or disrupted fundamentally whatsoever. God even somehow gets away with that drop, despite one player directly around the corner. And I mean, for Angry Men, nothing that they have planned for or envisioned about this defensive half is going really unobstructed.
Feels like the map control is more important than getting the kills at the moment for DAYSTAR.
Yeah.
Because they're just so convinced that they need to take this control and then they can start to execute and then they can start to work. But if they're not getting the kills, if they're not winning the gunfights, it isn't going to matter. Souffle, next player to fall there. It's the Thermite gone. Okay, not the biggest loss here on the mid-floor site, but it's the diffuser cold upstairs. Someone's going to have to rotate up toward electrical and pick that thing up. And you just know that there's going to be someone still hanging around up there on the defense when that happens. Pikanzu, in the bottom of warehouse at the moment, has a chance, but just can't land the finishing blow. The F2. A little bit brutal on the recall. Oh, the timing. Lider pops the corner at the perfect time. Bin finally starts to get something going here for DAYSTAR, but it feels like it could be too late as he too falls to Gotti.
It's too late for Seal as well. Finds the angle, but also falls to that MP7. 6-3 now for 4 Angry Men, and I really feel like Ali, as we've seen them now achieve 3 defenses in a row on map point. It's got to be that defensive game plan that is winning at the end of the day. I mean, from the team and Eden, of course, but really all 6 players and the coach, well, 5 players and the coach that we have right now. You can see that what they envisioned in that timeout has perfectly come to pass, and DAYSTAR just aren't really, I think, understanding that situation. Maybe they will in these next 3 rounds. Of course, we still got potentially 3 till we get to overtime, and the ban phase could change things, but hopefully we can see maybe DAYSTAR rotate to maybe some more direct pushes or some quicker pushes at the beginning of the round, because if it's just more like this, I mean, I think we're probably going to be thrown to a break in the next 4 minutes or so.
A solid Snake ban. I mean,
that one's crazy.
Yeah, okay, it's a possibility, but I think it's one of those games where the bans just aren't really going to matter too much. The Azami ban's a good one, and I'll give DAYSTAR that. I think that was a bit of a headache for them, especially when they were attacking onto the base. It's been a headache on the top floor as well, so it makes sense to get rid of the Azami, but I mean, what value is that you could just insert that sentence into any game ever? So, again, I just don't feel like the bans are going to play a big enough factor here. DAYSTAR have to find something a lot deeper than that right now. And like you say, when 4AM are as prepared as they are and they know just how predictable DAYSTAR can be, DAYSTAR need to just be a little bit less predictable. They need to recognize, look, they're waiting for us at every single corner right now because they know all we want to do is clear. Let's do something different.
Well, especially think about like how ways in which they can be unpredictable. We saw Ying quite consistently from 4AM on their attacking side, but if you look at their defenses, they're bringing a Warden right now, but there's only the second time they've played it. They've really only played it on the command center. And so obviously, you know, we know that. We don't know what operators are going to play ahead of time, but you look at hindsight, which this isn't a knock against DAYSTAR, but if they had brought a Ying and maybe that like in round 8 or round 9, it might have had a lot more advantage. Maybe go for something quicker, bring a blitz, something like that, try and rotate, do something alternative to disrupt them, and we've just not seen that so far, and we're continuing to not see it in round 10. Sure, the Snake's banned, and they're not bringing Dokubi, but we don't see any rotation to the Ying or anything like that. We don't see any rotation to one of the shields. I mean, the attack has so many cheesy operators nowadays. You can pick your poison and probably find something effective, but instead they're trying to, I think, go for another full clear.
This looks like a little bit of a basic lineup, doesn't it? And that's one of the oldest tricks in the book, isn't it? The C4. Since the introduction of the C4 lineup, it makes it so much easier to hit those really nice long-range C4s. With Souffle down and those exothermic charges gone with him. No tin openers available. Once again, it looks like it's going to be a tough day at the office for DAYSTAR on the attack here of Nighthaven Labs. Going to be forced into those single doorway pushes. There are even pocket reinforcements if this connector wall wants to get closed up as well, but Gotti seems happy to take the challenge on there at the minute, and what a shot! He's going to land onto Bin, still with the option to try and close that off. And DAYSTAR caught at the periphery right now. There's no way in here, Lynx. They have to push through doorways.
Got to push through doorways with shotguns the opposite side. And Gotti, by the way, who's 15-4, something we have just neglected to mention up until this point. So much focus on Lyda, and yet Gotti, on 1 HP, still thinks he's got something to offer. You can see the plan, play the contact, play the trade. He pops up and gets a Zuki anyway. 16-5, as in all likelihood, that'll be the scoreline he ends on in a 2v4. 4 Angry Men have the angles, they have the utility, they have the game plan on lock. While Pikanzu might have 3 EE1Ds, they might have 2 nades between them. Given everything 4AM have in store, seems difficult. Though a good read by Seal. Sends that nade into the perfect position behind the bomb chassis. Great late round read from the IQ. Now trying to push in through the smoke as more health, more time is bled from the attacking team. 4AM continuing their game plan of holding still.
I really like how 4AM are playing this. They are not trying to overcomplicate the point. They're not moving at all. They're just holding really deep power positions. Lyda gently peeking here onto electrical. There's no option for DAYSTAR right now.
No option whatsoever as both Pikanzu and Seal now starting to move towards half HP. Pikanzu prone in the middle of a doorway, more offering himself up for sacrifice than actually making a full attempt. What a showing by 4 Angry Men on Nighthaven Labs. Might be their pick, but a 7-3 going into club, starting the day off right.
Really not messing around there. You can tell that 4 Angry Men have put in a heck of a lot of prep ahead of today's fixture against DAYSTAR. DAYSTAR caught looking really flat-footed on Nighthaven Labs. I know I was expecting a lot more out of this fixture. Fortunately, Lynx, it's best of 3. There is at least one more map on the way, and we're going to be going to that very shortly. We'll be back in just a few.
Well, by the end of things, Ollie, really wasn't that close of a game. If you only tuned in for the first half, you would have think this would be a competitive Nighthaven Labs we'd be talking about, but no. After 4 straight wins on the defense, 4 Angry Men win their pick, and now we got Clubhouse coming up, I mean, pretty much immediately. But even I'm kind of surprised, but that game plan we heard from Eden, I don't think there was a single flaw in it.
It worked really well, didn't it? It shows just how well 4 Angry Men are prepped for this fixture. And DAYSTAR, they need to wake up, and they need to wake up quite quickly, because we already know the similarities between somewhere like Nighthaven Labs and somewhere like Clubhouse. Granted, 2 very different maps, but
True.
they do play in a somewhat similar fashion. And you would hope that DAYSTAR have got a good chance in this fixture. We said at the start it was difficult to tell who favours on these map choices. 4 Angry Men, for me, had the slight edge in that they had a bit of a favouritism towards Chalet, but I'm not even sure if we're going to get to Chalet at this point, Lynx.
No, with 7-3 on Nighthaven, there's enough similarities between these 2 maps that it makes me feel like it's possible we will see 4AM just run away with it. I mean, one immediate example, those exterior walls on Clubhouse and Nighthaven, there's a reason why of all the maps we see in the pool, it's usually these 2 maps where we see double hard breach denial bans or double hard breach bans. And while we always do have to say that, you know, the 3 bans were like super impactful for like 2 seconds, and then we got a lot more operators that got super powerful. But even still on these maps, they can be quite standard. Basically, completely change parts, at least especially the early game, for how these maps play out. But we'll see how the actual differences between Nighthaven and Clubhouse manifest. As if they are too similar, 4 Angry Men might get another strong or even close victory, but a victory nonetheless. And if they do that, unfortunately, DAYSTAR will be our first team sent home from the Salt Lake City Major, and 4 Angry Men will go on to play Los later on in the bracket.
We just need to see a little bit more out of DAYSTAR. I think top 3 bottom. Seal yesterday, by far and away the highest performer. And it's not necessarily that they had a quiet game over on Labs. There just wasn't that same level of support from the team that was enabling a lot of those plays. Let's see what we end up with here on Clubhouse as we get on into things. A Ying and a Cade straight off the rip. 4AM starting off on that defensive side. DAYSTAR on that attack. It could be quite boring. It could be double hard breach denial again. The old Cade Bandit, which for me, it just leaves far too much open. There are lots of different ways to get things open here. A Cade, granted, I can understand that to some degree. Things like Moto, things like Basement can start to get a little bit techie. But the Bandit coming out as well, I feel like it just gives too many tools for the defense to play with.
Well, and if you think about kind of what we saw from these 2 teams on Nighthaven Labs, I believe from DAYSTAR's defenses, we often saw quite a heavy trap lineup. I mean, we had, you know, Fenrir's, Ella's, Malusi's, Legions. Also saw some of that from 4 Angry Men as well. And now I think just the thing about trap operators is there is no one trap operator that is particularly strong to warrant banning. You're never really going to want to ban the Fenrir or the Malusi or anything like that. And because they are all in that strong but not bannably strong area, that then allows you to bring lineups like that. And so when you have situations such as this, where you have 2 maps in which Cade and Bandit are pretty much always going to get banned if you abide by the conventional wisdom, not only do you have that, but on the flip side, instead of the traps, you basically get all the most annoying time-wasting operators. You get the Smoke, the Goyo, or even in some more indirect ways, the Clash and the Castle, who burn time on the extensions. And so it makes sense to ban the Cade and the Bandit. But as kind of we talked about at the beginning of the show, you got to pick one kind of defensive or attacking philosophy you want to target. But once that leaves up the other one, if you have a team that likes to specialize, they'll have so many tools at their disposal.
Yeah, I mean, we're just at a point in the game where there are not too, I don't want to say too many options, but there are a hell of a lot of options.
You can only do so much.
And you can only do so much. You can't get rid of everything. You've got to cherry pick exactly what it is that you really don't want to deal with. Castle, already being dealt with there on that small window to the top of those blue stairs. We are seeing Bin Bin on the ram this time as well in an attempt to rip open that kitchen corridor. Should be fairly straightforward to get this kitchen hatch open as well. Gotti does have an impact and he is below, but nicely covered there by Seal. It's very quickly going to deal with that kitchen hatch element. And Snake just starting to clear this top floor. Knows that there's going to be somebody over there toward garage, but there is mute, so you do have to be cautious that you've not just got a rogue defender stood in one of those mute jammers.
Seems to be the case right here. Darsley even with 2 mute jammers in pocket. Just hoping if there is some vertical destruction down below. Oh, Lida! One of the more aggressive Clash plays I've seen in a bit. Sets it up, gets the pre-fire onto the player on IT Breach. And we have attackers dropping like flies. Pecan finished off. A double kill for this mute, and you can see that maybe DAYSTAR underestimated the impact of this mute clear. I'm not going to say that Thermite underestimated the impact of Lyda. I don't think anybody would have expected the Clash to do that right on IT Breach. Firebolt's going down, unfortunately, a little bit too late as Lyda just backs up. Down in the process, getting a little too aggressive given the 4v2 position.
We're entering troll time.
We are.
We are entering troll territory. The round was won about 20 seconds ago, and all they needed to do was just try and rotate downstairs. And if they all get down, if 3 out of the 4 of them get down, great. But Lyda with that swing just opens the door a little bit, and it leaves some seriously vulnerable players up here. Darsley is going to be vulnerable inside of Radio. We are going to see TX as well, a little bit vulnerable over toward that catwalk side of things. Fortunately, he's going to land his shots. Now this should just be a layup.
Just appreciating the small things, as we'll likely have 40 seconds. No, Seal actually will jump in the building, so I appreciate that. Sound Q will reveal himself to Gotti. Ooh, goes down as well. Side is actually empty, by the way, and Seal does have the diffuser. I believe Darsley's still up on the top floor. One player's in Oil Pit. The ironic thing is I still think Seal's going to go down, but he probably could have... I'm not saying he should have, but he probably could have sprinted in, just put that diffuser down. He'll begin to do so as the defense moves forward, but they're all moving quite slowly. We will enter the post plane in this process. Both Darsley and TX on top of each other. No way! They line up for him, and Seal gets away with both.
Like I said, the round was won at around the minute and 20 mark. All we had to do was get ourselves back down to site and secure that advantage. Seal challenging some of the energy that we saw them play with yesterday. Coming away with a round like that, from the DAYSTAR point of view as well, they lost 4 rounds in a row on the attack on Labs. So to come out here and to get something like that, which is a massive clutch, is going to do so much for the mental on the team right now. Could be a real swing inside of this series already on the opening round here of Clubhouse.
Attackers activate.
Criminal behavior. The fact he got the plant down as well, like, the whole thing's just nuts, you know?
And technically speaking, if you think about it, it's kind of a 1v4 more than anything. Souffle just got taken down on the garage door. That was all pretty much entirely Seal getting those kills. And you mentioned that Seal, you know, maybe not doing as well because he didn't have a lot of support. Well, I can tell you, he had no support. Well, he might have had some support in terms of maybe droning, but in terms of actual players in the map with him, no support to get that 4K in round 1. Just by individual effort, able to net DAYSTAR their first, breaking 4 Angry Men's 4-round streak on the defense, carrying over from Nighthaven Labs. And, well, I have a feeling that Eden, if we get to that point, Eden will probably have some things to talk about in the tactical time in the future. But I also think, given 4 Angry Men's success so far, I imagine they kind of realize what happened there. And I doubt we'll see a round play out quite like that in the future.
A little bit of a wake-up round, isn't it? It's, you know, it's not always going to be just as easy as getting a couple of kills on the roam and then being able to lock in the round from there. You have to finish these rounds with the same conviction that you start them, and you can't afford to take your eye off the ball. You can't afford to let up for a second. Gotti, he isn't letting up at all. 16 kills he ended on Labs with, and he's already opening his account here on Clubhouse. Nice little opener onto Pikanzu. Again, the opening picks for 4 Angry Men have been very good in this series so far. And losing out on the Lion, you are going to lose some of that global ability, those E1Ds that we have seen used to good effect to try and single out and slow down some of these roamers from this top floor site. At the moment, it's just going to be a little bit of setup from the attackers. There's plenty of work to be done from the roof, whether that's getting open the hatch into logistics, getting open this wall onto Jacuzzi, or indeed starting to challenge and think about those windows in toward bedroom and, of course, cache and CCTV as well. So plenty of little options to go with, but being one body down isn't going to help them in that endeavor.
It will not, especially when you lose the 417, one of your potentially 2 DMRs in the process. Only DMR, in fact. We've seen how powerful of a weapon that can be, not only in basically every match in the past, like, 6 months, but last map in particular with some of those pre-fires. Also means that as the Blitz wants to push into the building, you want to have these guns covering different angles. And the 417 in particular would be a really effective gun to cover that Blitz as Bin pushes in. Lacking it could be a bit of a problem depending on where the Blitz decides to push from. You can see currently Seal looking to get his, and does get, his 5th kill of the map so far. 1v1 on red stairs with only 47 seconds to go. Things need to break away a little cleaner for the attacking team. They're stuck outside these windows, stuck outside these rooms, trying to take 1v1s and winning them, to their credit. but still in the disadvantage given the loss of Pecan at the very beginning. So Seal will hop deeper into construction, looking over towards logistics. With 3 Bs, he can actually get quite a bit of information and clear out quite a few positions.
Seal has really navigated around TX, and I don't think that he's got any idea as to where Ella is playing right now.
Ooh.
Brilliant flank in through construction. He was just tucked inside a cache, and there was no idea, there was no indication from Seal that he had any clue what was going on. TX is going to be able to move around the corner. It doesn't come down to that. Lider, in fact, credited with that final kill, but just a brilliant lurk play and a player that just went unnoticed.
And you know what word does not describe that round? Troll.
No.
Perfect play from 4 Angry Men in the late round there. We do not see any ridiculous swinging by Lida. We don't see any kind of late rotations backward by the defense. Clearly understood their win conditions. Now, to be fair, part of that was because it was a much closer round. While 4AM consistently maintained the lead, it was only 1 body wide the whole time. But even then, you see Ella on that flank, and it really doesn't go in until Thermite goes in, and the call is made, hey, DAYSTAR are committing to some kind of execute. The Thermite's behind the bed. He's probably going to go for the plant. They're going to be focused on covering. Now you can hit that flank in construction. Everything is just much better tightened by 4 Angry Men, and while the streak has been broken, they continue some generally strong defensive performances, and we'll obviously see how round 3 turns out, but round 1 looking already like an anomaly.
We may look back at round 1 and say that it was just a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
You know, it could have just been a little bit of a rounding error, and maybe they just got a bit too ahead of themselves. And that's going to happen, isn't it, on a game here or there. I think for DAYSTAR's point of view, they've kind of got to recognize, look, we've won a round, but we won a round off the back of a massive clutch that is, as we've seen, not going to be very repeatable throughout the course of the series. So they still need to dig deep, and they still need to find some of these answers. And I think, again, that last round was a good example of it, for me at least, in that it was a full clear that wasn't done very well. There was a lack of information. They were leaving players out there, and 4AM know this. And if they're thinking, okay, DAYSTAR love to clear before they start to move on to the site, and I don't get droned or I don't get cleared, boy, you're in the best position in the world, because you are never going to get found at that stage.
Very good point, actually. An important ramification of kind of the understanding of that philosophy, and something to keep an eye on for all of you going forward. If we're looking at this full clear and you see somebody is still off-site, there's probably a decent chance, to Ollie's point, that that player has not been droned. Using this round as an example, we've got Denari and a Smoke, both positioned quite aggressively. Now, these players are going to get droned. There's no way they don't. I mean, they're not really trying to hide, of course, but also, if you are a team that likes to full clear, you're going to need to drone out Gym, you're going to need to drone out Bedroom and Logistics. These are all normal. But, if somebody, say, maybe drops down the construction hatch as they're rotating back, that's where things might get a bit tricky. At the moment, they start trying to mount this pinch. Deathmark tracker on the player playing close to Logistics, but again, 4AM start things off on the right foot. He still gets through. Gotti now, I believe, on 18 kills between the two maps, and potentially looking for number 19 as he swings around the corner. Massacres Azuki with that SMG 11, and now Seal dropping down. Not really joining Soufflé, but DAYSTAR in another disadvantage, and one in which I don't think 4AM want to give away, with the Goyo sitting close on red stairs. Just swings around, and well, that's that.
These players just look unleashed, don't they? I think a lot of these players end up playing on quite high ping during regionals, during kickoffs, during whatever it might be, because all the online play, it's a big place.
It's scattered.
It's scattered. And the ping is quite a serious factor. So when you see them eventually get to a LAN and play on 0 delay, some of these kills are absolutely crazy.
That TCSG one tap was... It
was ludicrous.
It was one of those things where it's like, just because he got headshots so quickly, like the audio cuts off a little bit, just like how the game works. And so you don't really appreciate it. And then you go back and you think about it and you're like, oh, that guy got robbed.
Absolutely. Someone else that got robbed.
That kill was crazy.
Bin got robbed. He pushed through the whole Toxic Babe canister, was tanking damage left and right, still had the Deathmark tracker onto Gotti, and Gotti just turned around and hits him with the one pump.
I would genuinely be upset. I would genuinely be upset if I were the Deimos in that position. You have him tracked, you have him dead to rights, you push through the smoke, which is always like a risk, but like you feel like you deserve it at that point. You've put an effort. You've lost HP for this kill.
There's enough going on to warrant it as well, because Gotti's attention was divided. He wasn't just solely focused on Bin coming as the Deimos. There's stuff going on inside a bedroom. There's other factors at play. It was the right play to make. You just still lose it. You still get shot.
And it's one of those things that we were talking about on Nighthaven Labs as well, where there were plenty of times where either of these teams, but for DAYSTAR in particular, were generally speaking quite fundamentally sound. but they were just losing fights or with small little mistakes. And, you know, the reality is those can be capitalized upon, or the reality is you're going to lose those fights. But right now, 4AM just aren't losing them. On the defense especially, I mean, that 1v4, or technically speaking 1v3 being the exception, 4 Angry Men have been quite disciplined, but also quite capable in winning those really difficult 50-50. But even in that case with the smoke, like, that's a disadvantaged position for him, and he's still able to get the best of it. Now as we go down to basement, I mean, similar positions are going to be if you're, say, in Generator and your position gets flooded with bees. If we can see somebody manage to get a lot of damage or a kill in that position in the late round, that's exactly the kind of stuff we've now grown to expect from 4AM.
I really like this from 4AM as well because it's entirely different to the way that we saw them hold basement in the first round. They've not gone for that extension with the mute and the clash. They're not trying to bait out Snake thinking that there's only one player upstairs, and in fact there's 3 and 2 of them are stood in a mute jammer. Nope, they've just gone back down to the site. They've gone, hey, you know what? We know that we had technically won the round previously and then still managed to lose it because of a huge clutch by Seal. We're not going to give that opportunity away to DAYSTAR. We're going to make them work for this control, and DAYSTAR themselves, they're going to spend plenty of their own time. You don't need to spend it for them. They're going to drone the full map. They're going to make sure that garage is clear. They're going to get the drone up onto catwalk. They'll move through bedroom and cash and construction and all those different areas, and they'll start to make a bit of a play from there. Speaking of plays, heavy stack up here inside of the dirt tunnel. What a C4. Gotti, he's going to get caught out there. Seal with the backup, working in behind Binbin. Darsley down as well, and I don't think TX is going to be able to get him. This has been a much more direct approach, and I'd like to see DAYSTAR just put the foot to the floor now and finish this round and really take advantage of that early pressure that they found.
I mean, it would be nice, but at the same time, I honestly can't really fault a team for just trying to dot all their I's and cross all their T's, getting the hatches open, getting this information with a minute remaining. I mean, the Grim still has all 5 of his Bs. And by the way, to give some context to what I believe happened, the defense spotted a Blackbeard in dirt, and DAYSTAR were going for their normal full clear stuff. This was not a full direct push through dirt, but it seemed like the call was just to, like, power through that guy and to put, like, insurmountable pressure on them because there were, like, 3 to 4 people all lined up. And you can do that if it's, like, very spread out, but they all ended up funneling themselves in dirt and basically all lined up for the Blackbeard. 2 of them got down in the same spray. He got another kill from that same position, and then I think the Sledge finished them off in the exact same way. Yeah. And obviously you got a double kill at the end there, but while I think in the abstract, ignore the position. In the abstract, that's a good call. The Blackbeard's alone. Let's overwhelm him. But doing it in dirt, that's just going to favor the Blackbeard, who can retreat out of those engagements and can line you all up with an assault rifle. Like, look at this.
I think you've got to give Seal a little bit of credit there as well for the play.
True.
Because didn't waste any time, immediately hit that rotation. As soon as Binbin's there screaming like, they're all in dirt, they're all looking at me sort of thinking, I need some help, need some help. Seal is straight there, the first player. And like you say, they're lined up at that point. There's no way that you miss the engagement, no way you miss the gunfight. You're basically given no choice. The basement then, not really being the site for 4 Angry Men on this defensive side. They've lost it now in 2 drastically different fashions. But both of them have been equally as devastating, and both of them, Seal has had a big part to play in. Well, he should do, because he's 8-2 at the moment, and he is pretty much the only reason that 4AM are in this fight right now. A level game at 2 rounds apiece. I doubt we'll see the basement site re-attempted now from DAYSTAR. They'll probably just repeat both these 2 top floors and look to try and lock it in, because admittedly, this is where we have seen a little bit more struggle from the DAYSTAR side of things.
See a little roam from TX early on, hanging about on the strip side. This could be such an easy pinch for DAYSTAR if they spot him. Again, we've talked about the full clearing quite a few times. Now we see the active droning from Souffle, but will they actually find the Valkyrie? Ooh, no. I think she might have slipped by the cutoff, and I don't think the Thermite actually spotted her. Still being thorough, though. No Z-pings whatsoever. Might try to find another, looking to dodge that drone. Does it get her? Yes, it does. Now with the information, EE1D goes out. Thermite around the corner, even double-checking this information. Utility flying through. This should be a kill. Yes, indeed it will. Azuki around the corner with the 417, and Unfortunately for TX, that gamble does not pay off.
Unfortunate there for TX in the position that he was. I think he had a good read on things, but DAYSTAR have played it perfectly. Don't peek from the person that's known, peek from somebody that is a little bit more unpredictable. TX knew that there was a chance of someone coming from that angle, but you've got to hit the right time, and you have to be looking in the right place at the right time. And with so much going on, it was just a bit too tricky. Gotti! For the player that has seemingly not been able to do much wrong this game, he's been caught out by a bit of an oldie. As soon as the breach is open, he gets caught looking straight at it. And for the first time, we start to see DAYSTAR chain a little bit of a lead here in the early portion of the round, where it's more of a full clear, where it's less of a cheesy Blackbeard play going down dirt. This is more typical Siege right now. I really hope Rockstar doesn't peek this. Oh, okay. No, Rockstar, take it back. You can peek that all you like.
Oh, he very nearly did not get out of that. Now down to 1 HP. So he might take down the Thermite, but he's already placed most of his utility, and it's still an advantage for DAYSTAR. I think it's, to your point, it's the first round where DAYSTAR have really felt like active participants, that they've not just been taking something either given to them by the other team or given to them by chance and capitalizing on it well and making the most of it. This is the one where it's really felt like they've applied some good pressure to 4 angry men, that they have made them move, they've read their positions, and they have really been the architects of their own fate and will continue to be so. Pecan walks down and moves in through chain. One player just spotted with his back turned. Easy fodder for the assault rifle. Rockstar now pushing deeper into Jim, but on 1 HP again. This should be an easy trade for the attacking team. Looking to get some of these flashes. Catches a line on the ace just very briefly, but only so much they can do. Very good trade by DAYSTAR. Guarantee themselves a tie half, and keep in mind, what we've seen so far, defense has been the stronger side, at least on Nighthaven, and now DAYSTAR finally gotten comfortable to the point where 4AM stronger side, not looking so strong now.
Well, they're starting to break away, aren't they? Got to remember, 4AM, they were good for an equal split on Nighthaven Labs as well. So even an equal split here might not be as much as we think it could be for DAYSTAR. But with the season that they played, round 5 for me, they've finally come online.
Really good stuff.
It's not been won through a clutch. It's not been won through a cheesy play and just a lot of players stacking up in one position. It was won through really systematically dismantling a own game, taking TX downstairs, dealing with Gotti, knowing where these players are, and then being able to affect onto them. Yeah, sure, Rockstar gets a flashy kill, and Darsley's able to pick up a trade and stuff, but there was no real danger there for DAYSTAR. They were in the driving seat and in control for a large portion of the round. We're going to see a reattempt upstairs now as we go back into gym and bedroom. And for 4 Angry Men, they're going to be hoping to walk away with an equal 3-3 split right now. And they've gone for quite the lineup to make that happen. It's a lot more trap focused than we've seen previously, whereas we've been looking at quite a lot of smoke play. In some instances, even some clash being brought out. This is just out and out, drone every inch, or pay the price.
And it's fair, right? Fair for them to break glass at this point in the map. You want to get that tie half, get themselves at 3-3 like they had on Nighthaven, but also, given the precedent set on those defenses, and given how this half started, I mean, DAYSTAR did look excellent in the last round. It's the best round we've seen so far, but it was also round 5. It's a round that came, obviously, second last of the half, and 4AM leaving some rounds on the table as well, as we've mentioned. Now, as they've actually got comfortable with their DAYSTAR looking really quite good on this attacking team, or on this attacking half. We'll see how they look in round 6, but they're building a nice game, so you got to bring something to disrupt them, and the traps might be the answer, but at the same time, we saw how good DAYSTAR's droning was when they dealt with the Valkyrie in position last time. First off, you're likely going to see a lot of those Denaris given the visible line indicator. Hopefully we'll see them be able to spot those Gurmots, spot those Razor Blooms, and once they're known, maybe the trap surprise somebody in the late round, but DAYSTAR's intel game is looking a lot better, as we saw last round.
Rockstar gently peeking out there onto the top of platform, and again, doesn't really need to play his life. Fortunately, he's got a deployable shield for this. Now, he's not got any catch utility. It's not like he's sat behind a Jaeger and a couple of Wamai discs, anything like that. He's genuinely just going to be looking to try and play by that shield and pick up a kill as it presents itself. Already pushed off there and just digging himself a little bit deeper back inside of the cash room. He's not really got any support with him at the moment. TX is playing much deeper this time inside of construction. And this is definitely going to be the opening gambit right now for DAYSTAR to try and deal with Rockstar just tucked in. But at the moment, time's starting to become a little bit of a factor, and we are seeing a bit of a pause out for DAYSTAR. Another Lion scan come in. That's going to be the cue to call. They're going to make the movement off the back of that, and Bin doesn't waste any time. Souffle elsewhere is able to grab a kill onto Darsley, and TX left in a really tough spot now, almost on top of one another inside of the site.
Oh, this has just been a perfect 3-2-1 from DAYSTAR. God, he can't even get the one on the run out. Very real flawless round possibility right here as Azuki's only down. Certainly get it. Still on the table. TX trapped over on the Logi side. Downing that Lion will give DAYSTAR some of that information, but as he pushes closer, finishes off another. Souffle domed inside of Logistics. Only one play remaining on that side, though. Two, technically three, stacked around the gym position. You can pick up the line if you so wanted. Not another 1v4. No, and it will not. DAYSTAR winning the half, up 4-2. And if round 5 was good, round 6 was great. Obviously getting that 5v2, but you've talked about how yesterday there were some disruptions in DAYSTAR's 3-2-1s. I mean, you saw the countdown play out perfectly.
It looked fantastic, didn't it? I really want to know what these guys say now.
Alright. Let's go on defense, okay. We've only seen 2 of their attack, okay. The basement, 2 of their defense, sorry. Yeah, defense where they hold position, turtle with a roamer that fall back fast, okay? And the bedroom side where they add a mirror free roaming and they random play extend server, okay? They just want to slow push on the server side and Azami hold the side while the others rotate, okay? That's all we've seen from them. They waited for us to make the play here. We also need to do the same, okay? We pressure them so they feel the need of picking us, they feel the need of doing something, okay? For this, remember, use your gadgets, take position early, okay? Going together, we hold crossfires, we talk about how we get into an area, and then we next step super fast, okay?
一样chill 下来，阅读一下对面在干嘛 ，alright。然后盾牌应该不会太。你小心那个地道啊，地道他们会盾推。
闪盾吗？
感觉他们嘎就是
那我换那个
会选
挖等
哦，他们一直出嘎子。
那你要玩挖等哦，很抢手。
没有啦，不要挖等啊。
哦，
电盾啊，电盾啊。
对啊，
电盾可以啊，
电盾可以啊。他们如果要推地道的话，
你帮我开墙。
怎么可能啊？你要开什么洞？
所有啊。可以，我就可以套电盾了。我可以帮你封蓝通啊。对啊，你开墙我封蓝通就好。
你还有中路的。
打什么？选什么套好了呗？
普通了吗？
一样先 aggro， 然后。
Now is DAYSTAR firmly in the driver's seat, taking the lead on Clubhouse. Best half we've had at the swap so far this series was a 3-3 on Nighthaven, and now a 4-2, favoring the team switching to the defense. Again, heard some more information from Eden Ali, but for me, at least, I'm more intrigued to see how these two teams compare on, well, the attack and the defense, because this was 4EM's weaker side on Nighthaven, but now they find themselves in a deficit. Curious what they can offer on Clubhouse, and also curious how DAYSTAR might surprise us.
Yeah, absolutely. DAYSTAR in the driver's seat now. They're going to want to try and maintain that advantage. That's going to be the key factor here for me. Get a couple of the highlights from the first half of things. Some of these moments, I mean, maybe moments to forget. Others, moments to remember, I guess, if you're a DAYSTAR fan. Moments to forget, potentially, if you're 4 Angry Men. I think there's potential for a couple of those rounds to have certainly gone the other way, but as it stands, we are going to be in that 4 versus 2. DAYSTAR back onto this defensive side. Bans, a carbon copy of what we saw over on Labs. We've got that double denial and then the Grim and the Capital as well, so some real favourites starting to develop between both of these two teams. Not that that's any huge surprises, particularly with the double denial. I don't agree with the bandit ban, but then again, I'm not playing. If I was playing, I could make my own choice, I'm sure. But it is going to be a point of contention, I think, for the games moving forward. The Clash for me is the one to look at. You've got the Clash, you've got the Mirror, you've got the Azami, you've got the Castle. There's a lot of architectability in that lineup, and you start thinking about how much of that can be used not only on the side but on the periphery as well. Bin, he's already been out there and placed a couple of those castle barricades out and about. And then you look at what we've got to try and get things open. We've only got the Hibana links.
And not only do we only have the Hibana, the only one with a DMR. So obviously, you know, some of the damage is important, but in terms of getting rid of those Kibas, you might have to rely on a bit more secondary utility, and if Rockstar goes down, it's going to be a lot more difficult to deal with some of those Kiba barriers. Though, of course, this being basement, I think some of those might be dealt with nades anyway. Take a lot of the Kibas around the AK position. You might bounce those from the hatch or from some other position. So we'll see how it works out, as Seal actually using some to get aggressive on the chain repel at the moment. Bin also looking towards the strip area, joining and linking up with the Azami, allowing the Azami to play a little bit more aggressive on the top floor. As 4 Angry Ben are actually getting some vertical destruction within the first minute, but it's on the second down of the first. We can maybe cut off some of these roamers, but then the defense quickly moves back. And you can tell that, from what we heard during the tactical timeout, DAYSTAR again not switching things up a whole lot. Couple roamers that then immediately help each other back. And aside from Seal playing on the main stairs landing, pretty much everybody's on the site and still got half the round to go.
Dirttunnel has been left soft here. Just a little bit of a choice, but I guess the option is there for tin openers and hard breaches to be brought and used, so it's neither no real consequence there. We're going to be able to get Moto hatch open as well, as Rockstar, again, just gently moving down those main stairs. We do still have Seal just playing on the half landing. It's these kind of positions that I love. It's not a roam, it's not a lurk, it's just some pressure. It's just a little bit of a hold. And if Seal picks his time in here, he's very likely going to come away with a kill, especially if you've got players locked into utility at that portion in time. Instead, he will drop off thinking, hey, you know what? I'm still alive. There's a minute left. I'm more valuable now back on the site. Yes. And I think a lot of people would agree. The kitchen can start to get ripped open now a little bit, but a nice reinforcement there is just going to provide a bit more surety to any players looking to be in the corridor outside of Church. Moto as well can now start to be opened. We're going to be looking toward a fairly weighty execute here if there's all 10 players alive.
And a fairly weighty execute, but coming at such late time, in part because of DAYSTAR's fairly weighty lineup. I mean, we saw the castle barricades. The Kibas all got saved until the last minute, so a lot of them are going to be solid going into this take. You still might have mirror windows. You still might have the clash. It is a profoundly and deeply annoying setup from DAYSTAR that has worked absolutely perfectly so far, because 4 AM will not be moving into the site until we are in the red zone. Lida's feet hit the floor. Rockstar dashes in through the ash wall. It's DAYSTAR who get the first pick, maintain their advantage, but Rockstar, undaunted by these odds, might just put that diffuser down as the attackers on this long line fall 1 by 1. And Bin ready for it, gets on the counter defuse, and DAYSTAR widen their lead to 3.
A lot has just gone on in a very short amount of time there. We see a very bold plan from Rockstar. I'm surprised he was able to stick it in amongst the chaos.
Good for him.
But DAYSTAR did make the right play. Let's not tunnel vision the planter. Let's deal with the people that are an actual threat. Let's deal with the people that have got the gun up. There was a team kill that got thrown into the mixture there as well. Lida, a little bit of blue on blue action, unfortunately, happening on the 4 AM side of things. Again, not the reason the round fell apart, but a contributing factor for sure. The time being the biggest one there. And if you've not got enough time, and you're dealing with so much annoyance like that. I mean, the fact that everything was still alive was the biggest problem, because every angle can be watched. You can watch the bottom main, you can watch drop, you can watch blue, you can watch dirt. There's everything that can be watched, and you need to be getting a pick. You need to be starting to work something a little bit earlier on, or at least have an idea of how you're going to overwhelm one player and make that your opening, and then start to stick the crowbar in and real jemmy that thing open, because just attacking it flat 5v5 like that for 4 AM, it was always going to end that way.
On DAYSTAR, just looking more and more convincing on Clubhouse, really have settled into this game, and even when we start thinking about the rounds that 4 AM might have left on the table, there's a decent chance that DAYSTAR, you know, taking away their lead and probably in the lead anyway at this point. Clubhouse very much looking like their map, and they're putting on an excellent performance so far on that first foray onto the defense. Great protocols, clear win conditions, and abiding by all those plans, and not really facing any disruption. As we go up to Gym Bedroom, clear, methodical, but also decisive retreats will do a lot for them on this site. You always have the construction and red stairs defenses. In this case, as we can just see, some early focus by 4 AM on this side. We've got a clash in this position. We've got an Azami in this position as well. And so DAYSTAR will likely want to try to replicate some of the success they had last round. Contest here early, but try not to fight here too long, even though there are actually, like, I think basically the entire lobby except one person is currently inside of CCTV and Cash.
Lider just going to be buddying back up with his drone and having moved into the space that he's already called clear, can look to try and work ahead with Rockstar. He knows that there's going to be players kicking around there. There's some Kiba barricades on the top of those red stairs. I don't know if he knows about the player close.
Ooh.
TX with an attempt from below as well, and the shotgun at close range. He's going to get them both here if he's not careful. Don't turn your back! You can't do that! Oh no, still alive and in the fight. As TX starts to burn through these players. Darsley, he's joined into the action as well. Souffle is the last sole survivor. Half the round left to go and already being hit with that Deathmark tracker. He might know where the Deimos is, but he doesn't need to be a genius where the rest are either. He knows this push is coming thick and fast through construction. The pace has been knocked out of the round. The diffuser is cold on the ground. This is a kill that does need to be found, and TX is going to give the game away.
We'll give the game away and might line up these next ones, but no, Gotti shuts him down. Maybe if Souffle's got a bit more HP as a dangerous repeat of round 1 begins to appear. But Gotti able to land that kill and 4AM recover in round 8. Pretty much winning the entire thing inside of CCTV and Cash. We see a 3-2-1 go through. Darsley with a double kill, but that push by the Deimos up red stairs. I mean, the fact that he one-pumps this guy from the bottom to the top, he doesn't even down him. That's crazy. He downs the Clash here when the Clash is on 1 HP, demolishes Pecan at longer range on more HP. I don't know how that works.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. But still just, I mean, some massive individual performances, but very clear coordination by 4 Angry Men to simultaneously push all those positions, dumping in the utility. Really good stuff to see in round 8. And hopefully this means we have a ball game, but DAYSTAR still have a 2-round lead.
They do, but that's something that's going to knock them a little bit, I think. Granted, I don't know that they will invest so heavily into an off-site hold like that again.
There were 4 people over there, which seems like a lot.
When there's 5 total, I would say it's a lot, right? Also, Seal and the Clash, I don't want to see it. Shields on stairs. I've already got some. I mean, you and I know.
Yes.
I've got some very strong opinions about Shields playing on stairs.
You and I have a couple running topics we always bounce through. It's like Bunk's briefing on layer.
Yeah.
It's my whole thing about technically impactful or impactless.
Flawless rounds.
Technically flawless rounds. There you go. But then the thing I think we always come back to that is our most substantive is shields on stairs, which is it can just be so tricky.
Spend as little time on the stairs as a shield as possible, and you will see greater success. Absolutely. Well, an alternate top floor site, Cash and CCTV, plays out similarly, but you're not going to really be allowed to just walk up Cash stairs and sort of make those kind of plays again. I don't think that that's something that DAYSTAR are going to allow. There's a lot of love for Hibana in this series between both these two teams.
Actually.
It's been the primary hard breach, is fair to say. We saw a bit of Thermite on Labs, but we haven't really seen too much Thermite here, especially coming out of 4 Angry Men. And those Excaros pellets, they're all going to be used right now. There's no tin openers either. Sorry, I was going to say there might be some tin. There are no tin openers whatsoever. Ooh. I was looking down there at the Striker, seeing what they had in their hands, but still nothing. So you've basically got breach open and that's it. Kind of like this from Gotti though. Just trying to zone out Binbin.
Oh, zoning out Binbin so well. Oh, that's actually genius. You throw the track stingers up because not only do they land and damage, they also slow the player. So if they get trapped, they are infinitely more likely to die to that nade. I really like that from Gotti. Rockstar finding a Souffle rotating through. As something I was going to mention, the Azami not actually playing Rafters. It was the Thorn in that position. Instead, Souffle trying to get aggressive on the plat wall breach, dies in the process, and now the attack also knows that Pecan is off-site. They see that impact as they put him to 1 HP, and this puts Seal in a really tricky spot. Wants to get aggressive down below, but if he goes down, the attack likely knows there's only 1 player remaining on the site. But how well do they know about Pecan's position? Rotating around, only on 1 HP maybe, but this nasty angle from Azuki as well. This LMG could rip through anybody who walks on top of those rafters.
They surely know about Picanzo's position. They saw him drop. It's just a question of where they come back up from. Ooh. I can't believe that Darsley has died to that after shots already going in onto Lider. Seal can now start to move up those red stairs, and it's very doable here. I know that Picanzo's on super low HP, but those Shumikas, they're going to zone out so much time right now for DAYSTAR.
Especially with Seal lacking any toxic canisters, he can stay gun up and also make use of that time denial. Oh, a double from the smoke. Gotti having the most impact, and really some of the only impact for 4AM in round 9. It started off so well with that Rafters clear, now with 10 seconds remaining, no diffuser control. He's got to find both of these kills. One player pushing up, but Seal takes him down. DAYSTAR continue their lead, and it might be twin 7-3s for both teams in this series.
I can't believe that 4AM did so much work in taking control of Garage.
Great work.
And then kind of just pivoted off it and didn't double down. You know, there was pressure coming in at the bottom of Cash Stairs as well. Seal was starting to feel that heat, and he wasn't able to just sort of challenge on. It's high time we see this tactical timeout. I mean, potentially coming a little bit late, really, but Ian obviously not really feeling like there's any major impact up until this point. They want to see the full rotation of sites. I get it, fair play. This needs to work, though, because without it, we are rapidly heading toward a chalet.
Rapidly, expeditiously heading towards a chalet. And I agree with you. We just see such a good play with that gridlock on the Rafters. See the pickup on the Azami as well. Not only a good position, but a powerful operator taken down who maybe could have tried to retake through Rafters. And it just doesn't happen with Pakanzu on the site as well. You have to wonder if maybe 4AM trying to be as diligent as possible, but maybe end up overcomplicating things in the process. And to be fair, it doesn't help when they try to take Rafters and there was an LMG looking straight through that Kiba. I imagine that's part of the reason that Kiba's placed, is to give him that angle on the staircase. So credit to DAYSTAR as well, making great use of some of those angles and mounting a really compelling retake, especially Seal getting that double. And I think the triple overall with the SMG-11, fighting back very nicely in the 3v4. Really well played late round by the defense. And just continuing their success, now up 6-3, forcing a tactical timeout from 4 Angry Men. Also requiring the attack to win 3 rounds in a row just to push it to OT. And have a hope at closing out the series 2-0. As, of course, this is DAYSTAR's pick, but it is only our second map. As Ali said, we have Chalet potentially coming up, and if we see more clears like that, maybe 4AM will deny us the opportunity, but the recovery, as you will see, being this excellent, DAYSTAR want to push us to Chalet quite fast.
They really do, and they deserve it at this point. They've got some really clear ideas of how they want to hold on to these sides. They're not reinventing the wheel either.
No.
They're not looking to try and bring anything that we've never seen before. It's just great basics, great fundamentals. Hold deep. You're defending CCTV and Cash. What do you do if you lose garage control? Well, you hold back deep and you play a Tachanka, you play a Smoke, you play those operators that are going to buy you a little bit of time. And especially when you've got players like Seal that are capable of hitting some of those crazier shots, let's be honest. 13 and 5 at the moment, really doing a lot of work in the terms of the kill department. This is far much more what we were expecting out of Seal. His performance on Labs was a little bit lackluster, it's fair to say. And he's come alive here. You flip that on its head and you look at the talisman player for 4AM that we were kind of praising a lot yesterday, and it's Lider. We're not really seeing Lider step up, but also Gotti isn't having the same kind of game that we saw him have over on Labs either. It's much more equally spread right now, and I think we need someone just to stand head and shoulders above the rest and start to take this game by the scruff of its neck a little bit more, because like you say, it very easily could be the last opportunity that we get. Now, we are going back downstairs to Church and Arsenal. Last time we saw this, there was 10 seconds on the clock. We were in red time when people started to enter even that basement level and that bottom floor, and it was a desperate attempt at nailing a plant down and just hoping that gunfights were won. It doesn't shock you to learn that that didn't happen, so we need something that's maybe a little bit more concise, and
Nice.
I like that clear to start things off. Seal a little bit out of position, it's fair to say. We didn't see the Azami playing that aggressively previously. It was far much more tucked in. He actually spent a lot more of his time in and around those main stairs, more similar to where Binbin's playing right now. But already with that opening pick inside of the first 20 or so seconds, there's going to be a lot of work here for DAYSTAR to not try and recover.
Will be a lot more work to try and recover, though they still have some good utility. Of course, you've got the Shimikas, you've got the smoke canisters, but if you want to compare it as another player goes down, if you want to compare it to that last defense, it was so much more bulletproof utility, right? The mirror windows, the castle barricades, the clash. But this go around, it's a bit of a softer touch. You're focusing more on the plant denial, the Shimikas, the toxic canisters. Sure, you've got the Kiva barriers, but that's the only surviving remnant of that first round defense we saw that pushed 4AM to a 15-10 second time. And now here, as 4AM have managed 2 kills, you don't have a lot of that utility to rely on. You might need to start throwing these smoke canisters sooner, launching these Shumika canisters sooner. It's only a minute remaining, so if they can just waste a little more time, it won't be as bad, but it's still something to consider.
4AM have lost Ace now, which is going to make opening up that church wall a little bit more difficult. Got the tin opener, granted, but that requires you to get very close to that church wall to make anything happen. Ace is fantastic because it can be thrown from the bottom of the stairs. that likely will change the plan a little bit here. And we can see that that Ash Rush wall has been opened up quite a lot. Kind of like that ROU projector just sort of ping-ponging back and forth.
Satisfying.
It's quite satisfying to watch. And it is going to do a great job of denying a lot of that visibility.
Ooh, but look at this. Gotti creeping up into blue. No B's necessary. Bin so focused on the push in through Moto might not be ready for this one. As the striker moves up straight close to the wall, finally spots the Tachanka, peeks in deep as Bin finds both. Somehow turns around and takes the player down on Moto. But in the 1v2, the attack instead has completely succeeded on the Arsenal side. Bin must turn his attention that way, sees the buck for just a second. Might have landed the shot, but unfortunately the uniform blending in, and 4AM remain alive.
Really good reaction time there from Darsley to try and nail that last kill, because looking entirely the other way, he was expecting the player to come over from generator side. He was not expecting the full rotate through Church into Moto and along to the bottom of those main stairs. 4-6 for Angry Men, keeping this game just in the balance, but they're going to have to do it again and again and again. Winning downstairs, for me, a very good sign. We've not really seen attack do too well down there so far today. There's been an occasion where we've seen, you know, some clutchy rounds down there, but to see a genuine round where there was some great execution, there was a good focus on the roam clear, and they were then able to sort of tie that up in a nice, neat little bow onto a successful attack that didn't require a 1 in a million thing happening. Nice to see.
Very nice to see. And thinking how this might go, they decided to go back to it. They're like, all right, that didn't work. We'll try an alternative strategy. We'll try and channel some of that success we had on the first attempt. We'll reintroduce the Clash into the lineup. No Castle, no Mira. That's not necessary, especially since one of them's banned. But they will try at least to not only bring some extra bulletproof utility, but also something that is a bit flexible. Azuki can go over to blue. He can go to bottom main. He can go into Arsenal or Church or Dirt or whatever he wants to, and try and make it work and apply some pressure to the attack wherever they arise. The F-Nod as well might give them a bit more information. For example, Gotti sneaking up blue. You don't want to let that happen again, especially in the late round when things are so chaotic. You want something that'll ping you directly and not reliant on a sound cue like, say, barbed wire. So I think some very good adjustments by DAYSTAR, not only trying to capture some of that success they had on the first Church Arsenal defense, but also accounting for the weaknesses in the one we just saw.
4AM looking like it's going to be a full map clear here, not wanting to leave any stone unturned. It's going to eat quite a bit of time for them, though. And time was not necessarily a factor in the previous round, but it certainly was in their first attempt, round 7, downstairs. That was where time did start to come and bite them. But fortunately, they're moving quite quickly. I think they've got the read that, hey, you know, guess what? Not too much is going on up there. Darsley actually taking a lot of damage on the reverse vertical as he's just trying to flush those players back down those main stairs. It should be fairly straightforward now to start working some of this vertical, and you can get yourself in toward kitchen, get dirt open, work the hatches, and start to move from there. Tin openers on Gotti, so the hatches shouldn't be too much of a problem. And this time we've got Rockstar again on that ace. He did actually fall quite early last round when we saw this site, and we didn't really end up getting the the church wall open as a consequence of that. But this time he's managed to keep himself alive for a little bit longer, and I don't see too much reason as to why we won't see that wall open.
No, especially with the vertical established, you can throw the Selmas down through without even going on the bottom floor. So Rockstar should be able to get these open. I'd be very surprised if they were not able to. A lot of potential for this 4 Angry Men lineup. Minute 15, of course, so time not low. Definitely should start thinking about how you want to work this final minute, because what utility do you have remaining? You don't have the Grim, obviously, Bees are banned, but not bringing the Ying either. Capital banned as well, so a lot of that normal disruption utility you have isn't present. So those Deathmark trackers maybe need to buy a little more weight. Those flashbangs between Darsley and Rockstar probably both need to do some heavy lifting in this later round, especially since without any nades, Gotti can't work players out of position. Some important things to consider for 4 Angry Men here. Some good utility, but a limited quantity. They have to be decisive with where they place it. Lida, as the Selma attaches to the wall around the corner, spots someone just on the opposite side of that soft wall. Can't quite land the shot, so he takes another chance at it. Oh, but he bounces around the head. Could have been a 5v3, but still a slim advantage established for the attacking team. Pushing down through Church. Gotti trying to replicate the success in blue that he found last time, but is Azami actually playing here, yet still focused on Moto, needing to do double duty, worried about the striker and worried about Moto. Could find themselves distracted as Seal looking for kill 14, has increasing pressure put on him as defenders are dropping like flies. Now the Azami hits the floor too. Gotti makes 2 fall due to the assault rifle, and now Azuki And a 1v4 with the shield already on the ground will not find anything. 0 rounds becomes 2 as DAYSTAR are merely 1 round away from a victory, and yet by the same token, just 1 away from OT.
Yeah, it didn't look like we were going to get to this point with the attacks that we'd saw up until this point, but 4AM have just pulled another worldly attack out of the bag into a very different lineup. As you commented on, there was a clash this time. There was differences in the fact that there was no Tachanka, there was a Fenrir, there was all sorts of things that were just a slight bit different and needed a different reaction. It needed a different response. 4AM took it in their stride. They didn't do too much differently, let's be honest. They still went for a very main stairs, kitchen hatch, and oil pit sort of lurk. Again, not reinventing the wheel, just looking to really have those key points and make sure that the sufficient amount of pressure is put into them. I think Gotti has been a blinding backstab because that's 2 rounds in a row now that he's really opened up the round. I know that he didn't get the most amount of kills there, but the threat and the pressure of it was enough.
Well, and you also see one adjustment that we saw from 4 Angry Men there is when they actually, reattempt that site. And maybe even in reaction to the Fenrir, they bring the Twitch, and probably is what enables that backstab because you're able to shock those F-Knots. Then that gives Gotti a bit more confidence to walk down the staircase, which then forces the Azami to do double duty like she had to start looking at Moto and thinking about the player behind her. So not only good adjustments from DAYSTAR, but even good reactions or anticipations by 4 Angry Men that enabled Gotti, as you said, to be just an elite backstab player in the back half of this game. 11-9 might not be as shocking a stat line as what, like 16-5 like it was on Nighthaven Labs, but in these past couple rounds he has really been having some weighty impact and some heavy kills in rounds 10 and 11. And now as we look to round 12, could be another important player as Gym Bedroom could be the site. DAYSTAR move us to Chalet, or the site where if a few more rounds transpire that they might lose all of Clubhouse.
This is where it starts to get a little bit dangerous for DAYSTAR, doesn't it? Because let's not forget, it's an elimination game. There is a lot at stake here. The future of your time at the major really does hang in the balance. Now, granted, we have an overtime. If DAYSTAR do lose this round, we will go into an OT, and we will then work out from there where we start to move. But realistically, 4 Angry Men, they won map 1. All they need to do is get a couple of rounds here, and they will be through later on playing the winner of our next game. So, a lot on the line right now, and we need to find out just exactly how DAYSTAR stand up to this pressure. Can they convert it? Can they just put Clubhouse to bed and take us on to Chalet?
Normal construction, CCTV clear. Slider moving in through garage, and attackers joining in from the breach. Clash rearing her head again. There is, in fact, not 4 players around construction, CCTV, and Cash like we saw last time. In fact, it is just the Clash a minute in. This is about the normal pace, to be clear. And Clash is a good player to kind of leave as a hanger-on. But again, another good reaction for DAYSTAR, understanding what went wrong the last time they attempted this site. And because you brought this Clash and you put her in this position, rather than fully pushed up on red stairs, she can gather information and make a decision. Okay, are they really holding aggressively? Maybe I can rotate back in. Maybe I have to hang a little bit further back. But as Rockstar looks to get this con wall, this will likely be the thing that forces Seal to move a bit further back. And yep, indeed, you can see her rotate away as half the round's gone. Half the top floor has been cleared.
And it's not really had too much effect, has it? It's cost you a little bit of hard breach explosive, which you were going to use anyway, and now you've been able to gain a little bit more control inside of CCTV and Cash. You push the Clash back. It would have been nice to put a bit of damage in. It would have been nice to take them out, but you can't always get that. The fact that they've been able to push back and they've now got more space to work in, more space to operate, and they can start to try and establish this peak a little bit further. Gotti will fall here. It's a star player that you don't want out of action here as the first blood. But look at how condensed everyone on 4 Angry Men is right now. And don't forget, that Jacuzzi breach is open right now. But losing Gotti, you've lost your extra man. You're not going to be able to commit someone just to a wish and a maybe that something might work on a backstab.
You also look at Seal's positioning, tucked inside of that Jacuzzi breach, looking towards the gym window, seeing if they hop in. Not a lot of utility to deal with this. No nades, maybe some flashes to blind them, but Seal's kind of stuck in this position. Azuki going crazy inside of the bedroom right now. C4 to damage Lida, only a little bit of a tap. TX trying to go for a lurk, but Pecan's ready for it, still goes down. Banshee will spot him, but the attack losing more players. DAYSTAR seem like they'll hold on. as it might be closer than they would have liked, but 7-5 is still a victory. And DAYSTAR send us to Chalet to decide who stays and who goes.
Big performance there from DAYSTAR, really locking in and getting the job done. I think a lot of their work here tonight was done on that attacking side. Regardless, Lynx, of how those rounds were won, they were won, and that is the key takeaway. Doesn't matter if it was a clutch, doesn't matter if it was a round that they should have lost. They fought tooth and nail to secure their own map pick here, and they lock in our third and final map of the series of Chalet, coming up just after this.
Necks and I'm wilding out. Throw my elbows up and my money out. Cause I came to get down, so let's run it up. I'ma keep it going till there ain't nothing left. I'ma keep it going, I'ma keep it going, I'ma keep it going till there ain't nothing left.
Still got one more map between these two teams as DAYSTAR fighting back quite valiantly on Clubhouse, but 4 Angry Men, we could say the same for them, as what could have been a 7-3 ending for DAYSTAR ended up being a very close but still, I suppose, decisive 7-5 victory for DAYSTAR. Now we have Chalet coming up, which very different than both the preceding maps.
It is, isn't it? You know, we've gone from labs to club. Quite similar. Two different results, though.
True.
For as much that we like to talk about them as maps that play in a similar fashion, we've had two very differing results. I think that DAYSTAR came alive a lot more on Clubhouse. It definitely felt like they needed a map to really warm up into the series. And obviously with the stakes of this game being that one of these teams is going to be going home after this very map, it sort of contextualizes things a little bit, and you expect players and teams to give it a little bit more when it matters the most. Moving on to Chalet, though, again, difficult to know who this exactly favors. It's a top preference map for the side of 4 Angry Men, so you could read into that a little bit and say, well, you know what, if a lot of teams are banning it against them, maybe it's somewhere that they are a little bit feared or they've got a bit more of a reputation. Alternatively, you could just say maybe it's just not a very popular map in the region.
True, but also if you want to think about it, I mean, 4 Angry Men saw them play Border yesterday against Shopify Rebellion. Yeah. Two maps in which kind of the exterior angles are very important. And that's something they struggle with. They struggle to clear out Spoit and any deal with some of those innate factors of Border. And there are some similarities, some very clear corollaries to Chalet, where the exterior windows are very important to maybe deal with positions like piano or library. And so if we saw 4 Angry Men struggle with that yesterday on Border, it's possible they could struggle with it here. Also possible that if they struggled with it yesterday, they might have improved and might do a lot better with it on Chalet. But that is at least one of the main, I suppose, kind of points of comparison we can draw, because I mean, DAYSTAR on Bank, this is just an entirely different map from Bank, both literally and with how it plays out.
It kind of is, isn't it? I think for DAYSTAR, one of the plus factors they've got coming into this, the team's going to be alive. There's going to be a lot of hype in there. There was some really big moments for some individuals. We saw Seal, again, have a very good game over on Clubhouse. And I think that if that starts to translate into Chalet as well, also, Lynx, they're starting on the attack here. Attack was quite kind to them. They got a 4-2 split on the attack. Yes, okay, clutch round. Yes, okay, round that they've potentially shouldn't have won because there was just a heavy stack up. But all they can do is play the game that's put in front of them. And if that's what 4 Angry Men are presenting to them, and that's what they're willing to deal with and capable of dealing with at that level, you can't take anything away from them. So I think it's a good thing here for DAYSTAR that they're starting off on the attack. And if they can continue with some of that momentum that they left Clubhouse with, I don't know. This series really could flip around quite significantly.
I think it could as well. And to your point about the 4-2 and playing the game in front of them, I mean, they needed the map to get comfortable, but also needed kind of that half to get comfortable. But I think if we see an extra 3 to 4 rounds from DAYSTAR on the attack, it's probably like, I mean, I don't know the exact math, but it's probably like 5, 6, 7 rounds they would end up getting just because that second part of their attack was so much stronger. I think they just needed a few rounds to get comfortable, and we would have seen some really, really strong play from them up against 4 Angry Men. And that's all to say as we look at how they might perform early on Chalet here. I think we really are seeing the truly like comfortable DAYSTAR on the attacking team. Of course, see how that translates to a different map, but I do think this is kind of them peaking at the right time with the attacking side.
They started being a little bit more unpredictable as well. Eden's timeouts have been very focused. They've been very sort of prescribed in the sense that they're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to do the other.
It's very prep-based.
Yes, so we need to do this, 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 this. We've very much got our to-do list, and we're going to kind of try and stick to that. And as soon as DAYSTAR start to stray off that path and start to, walk down the path less trodden, it becomes quite difficult because you're like, hang on a minute, we prepared for something else, and you're just doing the exact opposite.
And again, if you remember back on Nighthaven, that was something we criticized DAYSTAR for actually sticking with what we obviously knew to be 4 AM's prep a little too much. Always going for those full clears, not really switching things up all that much. And what do we see? As the series has gone on, as Clubhouse went on, DAYSTAR were able to start doing that a lot more. And they, of course, don't know what Eden has on them. They don't know what 4AM's game plan is. But understanding that they might be coming a little bit too predictable and that they need to show a different face. They were able to do that on attack. They were able to do that on Clubhouse. But now they need to do it on Chalet because the loser of this map, no matter if it's 4 Angry Men, no matter if it's DAYSTAR, one of them is going home at the end of this. And conversely, the other is going forward, but going forward to play Los in the blower bracket later today. We'll see who is who by the end of this. But one thing I can say to everyone who was terrified, shaking with fear before we got in this map, we will not have hard breach denial bans on Chalet. At least, well, we won't have completely hard breach denial bans.
Yay, and we don't get any in the first phase.
We're so back. We're so back.
Denari and Nazami. this is where things start to get interesting now because, okay, Hard Breach has its place on Chalet, but it's not as big as other maps. It's certainly not as big as the 2 maps that we've seen ahead of it in this series. So we start to get something a little bit different here. Still going to get the Grim back, and the Glaz will come out as a round out as well. Quite enjoyed the little bit of chatter in the all chat there. Lida just saying, Seal, you know, stop killing us. I'll take you to an American barbecue place. Like, come on, there's got to be some sort of deal that we can strike there, because Seal has really been that menace, and particularly coming alive. A little bit of a quieter game on Labs, but the same could be said for a lot of DAYSTAR on that map. But definitely coming alive over on Club, and if that's where he's starting to get activated and really ramps through the gears now on Chalet, it's going to take someone on the side of 4 AM to stand up. Historically on Labs, that was Gotti. Gotti, a bit quieter over on Clubhouse, and Lida, based off the performance that we saw them have yesterday, we were expecting big things again, and I don't want to say it's fallen flat, but the impact hasn't been there as significantly.
No, he's been good. He's been good. He's been fine.
It's not been an overperform, though.
Yeah, exactly. It has been. It's not been an overperform. It's just been a perform. Like, he's just been playing, I would say, like a very normal player, which nobody's going to get mad at him for. But especially going into today, you know, it was fine on Night Hit, especially when Gotti was, like, dropping a gigantic amount of kills. But on Clubhouse, when you are facing a team that is struggling, not struggling actually, but when a team is like performing that well, like DAYSTAR was strategically, lacking that overperformance can always be a little bit tricky, and can't really blame a player for it. But you can say, man, wish that was there. Wish we saw some of what we saw yesterday. Which, obviously, for both these teams, did not see Chalet yesterday, and we'll see what they have to offer here. As the first sight out the gate will be Master Bedroom and Office. Appears that DAYSTAR not fully committing to a take on either side just yet. Some players over by Solar, some players over by Library, and Gotti outside of the building in the first minute, but hops back in pretty quickly, and the player on the balcony not able to capitalize off of that. In fact, I think he runs all the way back to site, and very minimal roam presence at the moment. Some players down below in Kitchen Dining and Rockstar believe over by Library. All things considered, they aren't committing to any kind of extension too aggressively.
Rockstar's kind of set up over there outside the library, but it's very standard, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit of reinforcement, play the Wamai there, just stop people from getting library control entirely for free. Ella there caught out Darsley on the Deathmark tracker, so he's going to be tucked in there, just sort of transitioning in between on the downstairs, but it'll be Gotti with that opening pick, taking down Bin and really alleviating some of that pressure that Darsley was sort of facing there. He was kind of on that first floor, feeling like he was going to be the roamer that was going to be targeted first, and his teammate has given him a slightly easier time of things. Rockstar, very self-sufficient to hold there over on the library side of things, and with another kill coming in for Darsley, this attack's starting to fall a little bit flat. Quite flat, in fact. I mean, very clear positions out of the gate. You've got 2 players on the site, 2 players in Kitchen Dining, then Rockstar over yonder by Library. And DAYSTAR not really able to mount any kind of compelling or consistent push or clear of these positions. A lot of 1v1s handed to the defense, very little presence over by Fireplace, which in part is likely because Rockstar could challenge down in that area. So it ends up being quite a narrow push in through windows, in through doorways, resulting in which 80% of the bodies that have dropped have been DAYSTAR's. Though finally, Seal will start with 1. Rather than a 1v4 like the start of Clubhouse, now we're in a position where it might need to be a 1v5. The start of Chalet, and I've certainly learned from my habit of calling rounds too quickly. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here on this one, but stuck outside a bathroom window with a shotgun around the corner. Not a recipe for a clutch of any kind. No, Rockstar was fancying that one, wasn't he? Nice close range, super shorty, and just a quick peek round the corner. I think Seal's position was fairly well telegraphed there. I think everybody knew just exactly where they were playing. It's going to sound quite strange to say this, Links, but I need you to bear with me. Okay, bearing. They brought a Deimos, a lion, and a snake. Oh, that's true. It looked like they didn't have enough information. Okay. Now, all that is true. I will say, the Deimos going down first did not help, because he had information on the Ella, and then... Who did the Deimos die to, actually, now that I think about it? I think it was... It was Gotti. Yes, it was the Fenrir. Yeah. So, he had information on a player, just not the one who ended up taking him down. I think... Continue with your point. The snake has to be used a little bit more effectively there. It was a very confused push. We had somebody solo pushing library. We had people solo pushing the bottom of trophy. We didn't really have people properly clearing out inside a kitchen. There was not much presence on side of solar repel. There was a lot of things that were being done there that either typically are ignored or either fully committed to. If you're going to take library, fully take library. If you're going to take solar, get on the solar repel. You don't need to be sending everyone in below and trying to work that. You just play the cutoff.
Well, here's a question to respond to that. So, because yes, the Snake, I think information in general could be used more effectively. But if you saw the way that 4AM were playing, aside from Rockstar, they were all playing in very static positions.
Yeah.
Like, the Snake could have found them out, maybe get their exact position, but so many of them felt like known quantities to me. You know generally, once you get the information on the drone, that somebody's going to be playing around the dining area, somebody's going to be playing in kitchen. I'm almost curious if the Snake, how much good that information would have actually done, like, even if
you're going to play the Snake in that position, I think you need to make a bold play, and you need to be walking in from snowbalk and getting
that's
on
true.
your scanner
That's
and going,
true.
oh, right, I can check my scanner. I know someone's there. Importantly, I know he's not looking in my direction.
Yes,
I can get
that's a
something
good
else
point.
to go
That's a
down.
good
We can
point.
open the door. We can do this. We can do that. And you've got to play it in that and play it in conjunction with something else happening elsewhere. Because I made a bit of a joke about it, but it just didn't seem like it was really linked up.
Oh, and if not, we'll start talking about this round in a moment. But you think about it, Rockstar isolated. Maybe you get the Snake flank up blue stairs maybe, and then work a pinch on that side, and you get a 5v4. That, I think, that's a very good idea. And also, to your point, that is a very good idea of just using the Snake instead of going for that position to try and get something on the opposite side. Won't have a Snake present in this round, but I do think, to Ollie's point, getting some more information, or at least being able to make, I think, better decisions with the information you have. That is basically the name of the game of Rainbow Six.
They've gone from feast to famine, haven't they? They've gone from all information ops to now, just stuck to drones and good old-fashioned intel. Seal, does he know? With the way that he just stopped dead,
I have to think he does.
You've got an inkling at this point, haven't you? He's likely going to be able to hear TX just on those library stairs. But again, it's going to be Gotti to start things up. Seal needs to land this shot, but gets caught out by the Grismar. 2 for Souffle as well. So things a little bit more equal, but still with an advantage to 4AM because they have that man advantage once again here.
TX, of course, winning that fight over on the blue stairs, but if you look at the positions remaining, while DAYSTAR have some semblance of the vertical control, Bin and Souffle both with control of library. Because of the low count, you basically can have the players displaced horizontally, can run over to kitchen dining, which will cause Souffle to be concerned, fire some shots through the wall. He might tag up anybody in the process. Gotti can also rotate all the way down below. I believe might even reposition himself, yes, on the flank, looking over towards blue stairs now, playing deeper on the landing, likely going to try to evade some kind of drone, so that way he can push up later. This is going to be deadly for Bin, but the C4 will reveal his position, and he goes down in the process. So Bin finding an important angle with 40 seconds remaining, and now in a 2v2, the utility might be lacking, but he's got information on one, even flicks onto him, but can't land the headshot. That might be a different round at that point. But as Souffle moves and crouch walks in, TX is ready for it. There is a chance in that 2v2, but it goes unrealized, and instead 4AM take bar in games.
TX and Darsley really having to buddy up there at the end. It was dangerous because there was a lot of known quantities. Everybody was known. I mean, a lot of those positions are going to be fairly well known anyway. Bomb chassis peaks, head glitches, that sort of thing. It's always safe bets to try and hit a pre-fire onto those locations. DAYSTAR are actually going to choose now to take their tactical timeout. They feel like they've seen enough of Chalet already to know something isn't right here. There's either opportunity, there's either something pretty significant going wrong in the team comms, because we've only seen 2 rounds. We've only seen 2 sites.
And we've only seen 2 sites, but I don't know if you want to say similar problems, because if you think back to the obviously it was master bedroom defense, but like the kitchen dining clear on master bedroom defense was very linear. It was very one-dimensional, and they were all sort of funneled into the pre-existing angles held by 4AM. Yet that round, it was a lot more spread out, but it seemed to be a lot of collective 1v1s. And to your point about the lineup at the beginning of the round, would have been nice if you maybe had, something like a Dokkaebi call, something like a Deathmark tracker, something that would give you more information or give you an advantage in these fights. But instead, you just have Seal trying to just, take that engagement raw, getting hit by a Gergemont mine in the process, clearly not aware of it being there either. And right as that happens, you have one player dying to a run-out, another player dying to a 1v1. We go from being way too consolidated to way too spread out in the process. And 4AM have been ready for both of them. And I think just in terms of the strategic game plan, some of the weaker attacking rounds we've seen from DAYSTAR across the whole series.
It's been very reminiscent of Labs, hasn't it? We saw a peak on Clubhouse, and we saw some pretty decent stuff. Let's be honest, we saw some great, well-coordinated rounds as well as some clutch stuff coming out there. And now we've got on to Chalet. It's like we've kind of regressed back to the start of the series, and we're seeing that desync again. We're not seeing those 3-2-1s be very well timed. We're seeing those solo pushes that are into a lot of utility. It's a different lineup now that's being brought out, so the timeout has at least had that level of impact. We're starting to see the Blitz come back into the fray. We're starting to see this Dokkaebi that, let's be honest, we've spoken about at quite great length by Eden, and we're still yet to see a lot of impact from Dokkaebi from DAYSTAR.
We're spoken about, by the way, 2 maps ago. Literally at the first timeout, we heard the side swap timeout that we listened into 4 a.m. highlighted the possibility of a Dokkaebi lurk, and we've not only not seen much impact, we've barely even seen the operator over the course of the whole series. But now we see something completely different. Not only Azuki taking down Gotti within the first, 45 seconds of the round. That one is nice. You'll take that. Sentry might not be the most impactful operator in the game, but you're never going to complain about coming with a 5v4. And that's going to make those 2 operators that Ollie and I just mentioned a lot more impactful. The Blitz is pushing into an area. It's going to be a bit more difficult to trade out that player and any of the guns behind him in a 5v4. And similarly, the Dokkaebi is lurking and taking a 1v1. There's a greater chance that it is actually just a 1v1 with nobody close around the corner to trade. So just a great find for DAYSTAR to start, and makes both of those powerful operators just a little bit more so.
We need to see DAYSTAR work with that advantage now. They've taken Gotti out. They've gained a little bit of space there. That's somewhere that the defenders now can't occupy or can occupy a little bit thinner. I like this play from TX. The call is going to give the game away. I wonder if he tries to play a bit more aggressively on this, or he isn't going to be given the chance to. He might be Warden, but you've still got a shield and a pistol running you down there like a dog. We're seeing the kills start to come in thick and fast here. Azuki been a big player so far over the course of this round. 3 kills, Rockstar. He might have the DMR, but he's still 1 versus 4 here, Lynx. I don't think he's going to find the first. Pikanzu there cleans him up from that piano single. The 3-2-1. That's what we wanted to see from DAYSTAR. The timeout already worth it.
Well, love to see it, and also I just love the little bit of cinematic storytelling we get, because we see all the utility go out, we see the E1D, we see all the smokes, and we're like, okay, but why is this Twitch not hopping in the bathroom window? Like, what's she doing? This is what I'm expecting. And then we suddenly cut, and the Blitz is already at the bathroom door, and you're like, oh, that's why. We were baiting the bathroom window pressure to send in the Blitz from Piano, and it's just a brilliant move for DAYSTAR. And an attack that could not have gone better. Like, literally could not have gone better. The bedroom player gets his kill, the bathroom player gets his kill, and the player inside of Solar dies at the very end. Even though Darsley has some kind of impact there, it's perfect. Perfect play from DAYSTAR. And also, I think, and Ollie, maybe you disagree, I feel like the first time we've really seen DAYSTAR well and truly, like, switch up their play, from round to round. Like, just a complete reversal from anything we've seen in the series so far.
It's like they've been, sort of grabbed by each shoulder and shaken a little bit and gone, come on, guys, like, do what we practice, do what we know that we can do, because, again, a night and day round coming out compared to the way that we saw the first 2 play out. It's great to see that they've got it in the locker. The first time they got the opening pick as well, which I really like, because that's been a big sort of factor for them in this series. Darsley and Gotti have been successful in the first 2 rounds, so great to see them on the board, not letting the scoreline dip too far the other way. But there's going to have to be more sites than just kitchen dining that they're able to do that on. It's a 3rd choice site for a reason. It's a site that the defenders are expected to have a bit more of a tougher time on. It's a side where the attackers are expected to do slightly better. We're going back toward more primary territory here, master bedroom and office. And this is where it's going to be a little bit more they're going to have to be a bit more convincing for my money at least, because last time when we saw this, it was a very scattergun approach. We didn't really have anybody committing fully to anything. There was just a lot of little bits going on here and there.
Some changes from 4 a.m. being brought on their defensive side. Introduction of the Solus into the lineup. Conversely, could also play a bit looser for the Roam, as before it was really like 4 players all on the same side of the map, but 2 players upstairs on the site, 2 players down below, and then Rockstar the Wamai, who I believe still is over actually on the mezzanine side. So that is a bit of a change for 4 a.m. with Darsley kind of moving around on the Solus, but also you have the Castle Barricades. Ooh, Gotti going for a very late Castle Barricade on the office balcony window, right as Pecan.
The timing of that must have been quite fine. Pecan's like already running around there.
Oh, he still gets him.
Wake up a little bit, Gotti. Like, you can't just be full sprinting around there. You've got to give it a little bit of a wiggle peek first. Pikanzu will be taken out there as Rockstar is good to trade out his teammate. so it at least doesn't give a numbers advantage away, but still, Gotti, that's a player we need a bit more impact from. Bin caught out on the Razor Blue as he's trying to make his way in, down through Trophy again. Now, this was one of the positions where we saw quite a lot of trouble happen last time. They like to roam inside a kitchen, and I don't think that these players are known. That drone needs to be effective.
Needs to be effective with one player around the corner. You can see Darsley trying to draw the attention and seems to do so successfully, as it's not even Kitchen that gets the kill. It's Lyda who walks down, SMG-11 in hand, takes down one, though the DMR is good for the next, and even the second. Two line up for Azuki. The Lyda holds on. Shotgun around the corner. I know exactly who was destined to win that engagement.
What are we seeing here? Where's the Solar player? One player on the Solar Repel would have just put an end to all of this chaos that we're seeing right now. Lyda, now playing tucked on those Solar stairs, really doesn't want to over-challenge this. Needs to use his utility. He's got 3 Toxic Babe canisters. He can really cut off Azuki from actually being able to make any impact there. And the 2 remaining attackers, they're very split up at the moment. Seal, he's all the way over on side of balcony now. We're starting to see the rotation. A little bit of pace has been taken out of the round, and we can hit a bit of a reset. Both teams have players now that have buddied up a little bit, and there's some good info that's just been found out on the drone. Some
good info, and I was going to say some nades as well, but with the magnets catching one of them, you want to send this deep, likely over towards Blackwall as an easy predictor. If you choose wrong, if the defender avoids it, this needs to land, and it cannot get caught. One more flashbang as well. Toxic Canister landing perfectly. Instead, the nade goes over to the right, and it's a 50-50, and he ends up coming up wrong. Rockstar in a different position. Azuki caught in the Toxic Gas. Lyda's 3rd kill of the round, 5th overall, but Seal gets one. Knows the next one maybe can land this pre-fire. Rockstar prone, waiting on the floor, and DAYSTAR tie things up.
A round that was recovered to being a round that was lost. Seal. It's not the first time today that we've seen him clutch up big when his team need it the most. Second time in 2 games. And that is going to be a bit of a tilter there for 4 AM. I think after they've been able to navigate the initial sort of chaos, I don't think TX was droned here. Now, he didn't have that much of an impact because it was Lyda that ended up getting the kill, and TX just ends up barrel stuffing himself into Azuki as we saw the kills come out. Lyda did such a great job of not overcommitting down on those trophy stairs, didn't need to do too much. Seal's left in that position. What do players do? They just have to pre-fire angles and hope.
Does exactly that, and honestly kind of a theme of round 4, being players from 4AM just sprinting into the attack. Not only the castle up top on office balcony door, but also, as you mentioned, the Thorn down below. 2 areas in which, especially the Thorn, seemingly undroned, clearly trying to take things off guard, and the attack in some kind of off spot that the defense doesn't expect, and they end up getting punished for it. Fortunate for 4AM as the recovery's looking good, but great clutch by Seal. Again, his 2nd in the series overall. Such an important player for DAYSTAR in these past couple maps, and also the performance yesterday that resulted in a 4-7 loss. Definitely the one player we kind of highlighted that is showing up on both days of competition. Bar Games. 4 Angry Men will try their hand again at this site. We have Solid Snake once again. Different site than we saw before. It was Master Bedroom office on which they brought the Soliton scanner. This time it'll be Bar and Games. And given the attack that we saw, Ollie, we saw players trying to push up blue stairs, saw players trying to kind of go for their own separate angles. I think bringing the Snake for this site rather than the other makes a lot of sense.
And don't forget, this is the site that forced the timeout.
Yes.
It was after they lost this site, DAYSTAR, they chose to take, Harambe chose to take the tactical timeout, and it feels like it's been very effective because they have come out and played
100%.
entirely different Siege from that point onwards. So I'm not expecting solo pushes through Garage into Grismot Mines. I'm not expecting a lack of information. We've got the Twitch. That's going to be brilliant for dealing with the bulletproof cameras. You've got all that sort of stuff on lock. You can even get rid of some of the information from the Valkyrie there as well. You're going to be able to work around that. Bin playing on the Snake should be able to find a little bit more out. We've got a belt and braces approach here with the IQ as well to search out for those electronics, and an oldie but a goldie. Little Maverick line in towards stock and a couple of shots put in, but Darsley gets away with his life.
Just barely gets away too, 50 HP. You can see like literally the moment that torch opened up, he had a feeling of what was going to happen. Really good stuff from both teams. Anticipation by the defense, but also the attack. putting the pressure on, making them feel uncomfortable. Minute 15 remaining, a lot of the round has gone by, but the defense has been slowly pushed closer and closer together around the site. I believe all of Master Betterment Office has been seated as we've seen the 5 defenders over there, and yeah, as we can see, Bin has pushed up, used this Soliton scanner to take some very aggressive control. Now the nades go deep, those Souffle goes down in the process. Second chance of the engagement, it is actually Darsley who gets the better. Now, Bin in a tricky spot because you could go for this lurk, you could use that utility, but we're starting to reach a bit of a worrying point. It's looking like that last bar games attack. IQ down below, alone. Snake above, alone. Pecan pushing in through fireplace door, and he might have found a gap, but as he hops up, the ACOG scope ends up covering the Valkyrie. No clear kills broken the way of the attack just yet as there's still bleeding bodies in the process. Bin, oh, a hell of a flick onto Lyda. Can confirm the next one with the pistol. And now DAYSTAR have something. Darsley in the 1v3. Make that a 0v3. As the round shifts hands in only a few seconds and DAYSTAR continue their march.
Just goes to show that you don't always need to have it all figured out. If a couple of little solo plays like that work out, they've done a lot of the hard work and they had some great intel. They knew where these players were. They knew that Library Stairs was being occupied. They knew, obviously, I mean, the site players is fairly standard as to where they're going to be. But importantly, they knew about the player at the top of Fireplace. That's kind of the link between all of that because you've got a great line of sight down into the site. You can affect onto the Library Stairs. You can keep an eye on the main door coming in. You deal with that link, and all of a sudden things start to open up quite a lot more. You can see Darsley didn't waste any time there getting out of dodge.
This is crazy.
This is the big kill there from Bin. Because as soon as that one happens, with the other two players already down, Darsley's now just left entirely on his own. And we already know, where's the smoke going to be? Likely going to be in stock. Maverick Hole or not, that's where he's going to be gravitating toward. DAYSTAR, 3 rounds in a row now and secure a brief lead here just before the side swap. Will it be a 4-2 or are they going to end up on a 3-3? For 4 AM, it's alarm bell time for me because it's not only the attacks that have started to look a little bit weak as this series has developed, it's these defenses now as well.
Defense is really, if you think back on it, in the grand scheme of things, it's only Nighthaven where they looked really indomitable. I mean, 4 rounds out of 4, all the defense won by 4 Angry Men, and we've, caveated, the hell out of that defensive half on Clubhouse, but it ended up being a 4-2 favoring DAYSTAR as well, DAYSTAR being on the attacking side, and could very well be here because what an effective timeout that was from Harambe. I mean, literally 3 rounds in a row, and that one kind of looked the weakest, asterisk. Yeah. It still ended up the way it did, and Bin winning an excellent individual engagement. Those are the kind of rounds you want to see. You want those to be the exceptions when we can say, wow, what a great individual play to make kind of a 50-50 round, 55-45. In conjunction with 2 other rounds that have just been so strategically sound, so well played by DAYSTAR, that that's the pattern and the plan that we're thinking about. Looking to Master Betterment Office, the 3rd time we've seen this site defended by 4 Angry Men. Now we see a bit quicker presence on the solar stairs. Blackbeard immediately repelling in, can't quite land the shots on the player retreating over to the black wall. Brendan, quite a quick defuse plant. It's not the Blackbeard with the kill. How does he find that?
Beautiful. The cut-off, getting somebody on that big window, cutting the site in half, and as soon as the Blackbeard comes in, bang, bodies start to fall. A little bit of an overheat, I think, from Bin. Rockstar's 1 HP, but he's still standing, and he has taken down that Blackbeard. So whilst, yes, you've had the cut-off, you've had the ability to deal with one player, Lyda, the smoke that was rotating in between sites, you've still lost the rest of that pushing power. And I think Bin just needed to hold his horses a little bit there and just temper the expectation ever so slightly. It's still a pretty significant advantage for DAYSTAR. We've lost out on the Toxic Babe canisters, and we're losing engagements like that. Oh dear, it will be cleaned up by Rockstar as he just seems to be the janitor for this round. Gotti finding a little bit of success here as well. It's only his 2nd kill of the game so far, but he too will be cleaned up. A 2 versus 2, but look at this HP advantage for DAYSTAR.
Yeah, so close around the corner. Surely the 417 wins that. No, it's the 556 that gets the job done. But what a player remaining. TX down below with the Solus, made an impact grenade to stave off the first defuse plant, and now can go on the hunt for the 2nd. Though again, neither with the diffuser at the moment. Spots 1 through the floor, can't get it. That's his 2nd impact grenade gone. So the rest of this will have to be off the Specchio scanner and shooting it through the floor. Souffle now putting it down. Spots the player on the hatch, and Seal shuts it down. Great 2v2, and DAYSTAR another lead, 2 maps in a row.
Again, a great idea of how they wanted to approach that as well. Some really clear ideas of how they want to try and use that Blackbeard and how they want to try and set up all around it. We need to hear from both of our coaches at the halfway point here.
Okay. So their defense. Bedroom they have one strat with smoke bar and Ella basement. Okay, remember it. And the second one, they have no bar roam. Smoke will play blue, and on this one they have Echo that plays on kitchen. Okay, he tries to stay alive so we can Echo drone deny the plant. Bar, they have Pulse inside, and they extend piano office and play Clash in the Maze. Okay, she rotates where we are pushing. Kitchen, Ella that roam games, and blue, Aruni on solar, and the last two are top. Okay. Be careful on Bing window when we rappel, they try to run out lobby, but our strategy is lobby control, so we should be okay. Alright, keep up the comms, please. We had the solution in the first 2 rounds, then we kinda get a bit disconnected, okay? Make sure that everyone's on the same page. Okay, remember to be fast. We use gadget, crossfires, we take position fast, okay? We got it, and if needed, I have one more timeout, so let's go.
我一半，我一半，我一半。我们怕不怕电盾的到底？
别。
你刚才说什么？
我说啊，
没有，我说他。
他说骗。
在每句话尾句加一个字，直到他们发现。
然后我们的 Ben 角啊，我们 Ben Grim 跟蛇，然后3 Ben 他们想要 Ben Dog 还是 Demons， 我们直接把他们情报选分的。
熟了。
他们进攻有一个东西，就是有可能套闪盾，可能要套闪盾。
哦，
来，我前面看到有人爆弹的话，会想要 pitch。
Shit。
我知道自己要被 pitch 的话，就有讲。Reset。
好。
补枪。
玩 ORC 的。
对，玩 ORC 的东西。
ORC 的 free solar。
free solar。
OK。
We'll say very different vibes as we've seen in the past few maps in the rooms. Obviously very structured, very like, well, I assume both are game oriented, but a lot more kind of like business, I would say, at least for the 4 Angry Men, where it seems a bit more jokes for DAYSTAR. But at the same
and joking, isn't there?
But at the same time, I'm also curious, is that because we see the first minute for 4AM and then the second minute for DAYSTAR?
Yeah, potentially. I believe that the second minute for 4AM is kind of just a translation of what Eden ends up saying in English, and that sort of gets translated through, so it's sort of fully understood. And maybe that's why it is so prescribed and it is so direct and to the point. It's reminding the team of, look, kitchen, this is what they do for kitchen, this is what they do for top floor, this is what they do for bar, and having a very clear understanding of these key locations. And one of the things that I quite liked, he was talking about, you know, be careful when you get on big window repel, they like to run out of lobby, but our plan is lobby control, so we should be okay. It just seems like every box has been checked here, and I imagine that on paper, it works really well. But as we know, Siege isn't played on paper, and DAYSTAR have shown far more flair here today and willingness to sort of break the boundaries a little bit and break those rules in some ways, and not just go with, this is how prescribed the approach is going to be, this is how checklists need to be, because it doesn't always work out like that in the server.
No, it doesn't. And as we can see, DAYSTAR, when things have gotten in the server, at least on Clubhouse and Chalet, have proven quite capable of meeting the challenge. It's really only been one single half out of this whole series where 4AM have been unequivocally the better team, and that was the defense on Nighthaven. Everything else has either been a 3-3 in the case of the first Nighthaven half, or a 4-2 in the case of the first halves of both Clubhouse and Chalet. It's been DAYSTAR who have settled into this series, who have become very comfortable on their own pick, but then now on the decider as well. We'll see how that translates at the side swap. Bans have gone through. Not a lot of Grim Love today. Really not a lot of Grim Love. Hate him, but the Snake taken out very quickly by DAYSTAR. So that impacts 4AM's attack as bringing the Monty and the Deimos, a little bit of different strategies entering the play. We'll see how it works. With 2 to 3, now pretty much make that 4 players all looking over towards this library side. You'd be confused for thinking this is a Bar Games defense. It's actually the Master Bedman office despite 4 players on this part of the map.
It's a lot more together though, isn't it? I like this from TX, getting in below, a couple of points of damage in onto Bin. They've thrown a lot of drones at this as well. They've only got 2 drones left. So they really do need to be cautious and try and pace those two for the rest of the round. They do have the Monty, so they've got the ability to use Human Drone, as we affectionately like to call the Monty and our Monty players, because they can just sort of bear down onto people, very similar to the way that they are doing onto Pikanzu right now. Darsley is going to find the first kill, Rockstar the second, starting to chain some together here, as this slight extension, maybe it's tried to be held onto for too long by DAYSTAR, and they've not given it up quick enough.
Not giving it up quick enough, and now 2 players on blue stairs. This might be the end of the round right here. Another one found. Deimos with the nade and the revolver take down another. Surely they know about this Thorn. You can see Souffle trying his best to draw the attention, but it's a flawless round for 4 angry men. Round began and ends around the library position as every single defender tries to buy in and is punished for their actions.
It's just a strange hill for the defense to die on there, really, isn't it? There was ability to maybe drop back through Ivy into Piano and play the site a little bit more, but it's like they just kept throwing more bodies at the problem. They were like, oh, they're taking library. We need to go and support. Oh, a couple of players have died. We just need to throw more at it. We just keep throwing at this because eventually the problem will be solved, and it kind of just wasn't. In hindsight, backing up would have been a better play to make, and just saying, okay, they really must want this library control. Let's maybe just give it to them and try and work from a little bit of more of a position of strength.
You also get this tricky position with the Thorn getting kind of stuck in the plants right there because she can't really go a whole lot because of the single window. I think definitely a lot of what you said, but also just like happenstance based on like in the split-second decisions where the defenders decide to move, ends up kind of biting them just shortly thereafter. Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you're gonna go and assist and commit, you've got to go and assist and commit. You can't just get caught in the no man's land in the middle because it's very indefensible inside of Ivy Corridor. You need to be either in Piano or you're in top library or top 5 place.
Well, DAYSTAR's base of operations for round 8 will be bar and games. No man's land in this context would probably be more over towards the Piano side. Though arguably a little bit of library and mezzanine as well, depending on what kind of control 4 angry men are able to establish. The blitz, they could be able to pressure the defense, excuse me, quite nicely. See where the clear decides to come from, though. We have a pulse in play. Olivia was about to mention it, and we cut to it. Very nice. Thank you. Be able to tell which side the attack is pushing from early on. We'll likely have seen both both the blitz and somebody else. Might not know it's a blitz, of course, but knows there are at least 2 players. Surely we're not going to jump in this quickly. I mean, we got a little bit more work to do.
The pulse is kind of vulnerable there, depending on what's going on upstairs inside a library. We do have a presence there, and Azuki is going to be playing up there on the clash, so it's not going to be as easy as just sort of hopping in and playing through the hatch. But as soon as that clash is dealt with, or as soon as they're displaced there, the pulse does need to be careful below, because with that hatch being open, it can be quite a tough job. Obviously, they have the ability to affect onto that and can throw their C4 up through the hatch or even onto the wall, but so far, quite a good job is being done from DAYSTAR here at just keeping control. And again, it's quite a flat approach. We maybe need something going on inside a fireplace. We maybe need something going on inside a snow balcony. And that's exactly where we're going to see TX right now. But he's left with little option. There's a lot been thrown already here.
A lot been thrown already, spotting the Thorn on top of one of the display cases. 2 players now acknowledged and observed on the blue stairs, but they both retreat very quickly. By anticipating some kind of push, though the smoke will actually facilitate the defense's retreat. They'll also enable the blitz to push up. Attack finding more success. All 3 Selmas were either shot or blown up by the defense, and so Rockstar gets his revenge on the very player who did it. Azuki shot by the AK-12 and library control established for the attack.
Oh, I like this from Pikanzu.
Love this.
There is going to be a drone, but no one's dead on the attack. No one's going to be sat watching a flank drone right now. Gotti, the only player that can save this day.
Easy.
And he will do just exactly that. It's a boring job, flank watch, but sometimes it can be rewarding, especially when you catch out a defender like that.
It's always boring plugging holes in the sinking ship, but you keep yourselves afloat. And everyone is very happy you get that kill and have some kind of impact. Seal, 50 HP, playing on blue stairs, likely trying to just evade any kind of late round information, catch the attack off guard. With the 5v3 for 4 AM and the blitz still alive, sure, you're losing the Capital bullets. Actually, if you look at it, there's very little utility remaining for 4 AM. But they have that advantage to compound. But, ooh, Seal deciding to get aggressive. Such a big player throughout this map, this series as a whole. These 2 days as a whole could find another, but no. Rockstar creeping up. Good for quite a few kills this round. I believe a double for both him and Gotti, and 4 angry men. 2 really strong rounds at the side swap.
That timeout has worked quite well for them, hasn't it?
Yes.
They seem like they're quite a prescribed team. They like an answer. They like to know what they're going to be going up against here, because consistently, when Eden comes out there with some very clear information, they're able to work off the back of it. They knew that there was going to be a heavy clash hold. It was something that he specifically spoke about when attacking into Bar and Games. And sure enough, it was the clash hold that they played. They knew there was a chance for a flank. What's Gotti spend the rest of the round doing? Flank watch. This preparation is really starting to work for them. And whereas with DAYSTAR, when they're on the attacks, we saw them leaning quite into that preparation in the way that they wanted to play, and it took them a while to adapt. If we start to see a little bit of adaptation from DAYSTAR on these defenses, things might start to change. A lot of this game is going to hang in the balance of how long it takes DAYSTAR to understand, hey, we started adapting on the attack. Maybe we need to adapt a little bit more on this defense.
And this is the perfect time, replicating the exact position from that first half. I mean, 2 rounds lost, 2 really good 4 Angry Men rounds. This is the point. This is where we saw that blitz rush into Bathroom with a twitch on Bathroom window. A kind of playstyle we had not seen DAYSTAR really employed on Nighthaven or Clubhouse up until that point. On the defense on the opposite side, this would be the perfect time to see some kind of corollary. We've seen the clash before. I don't think any of these operators are particularly shocking, but Solus, that'll be a difference. That'll be something new. Roaming around the bar game side, but at the moment can easily retreat to kitchen and dining. We could also see her rotate upstairs to Master Bedroom office to try to deny the plant later. Maybe hoping that 4 Angry Men will end up getting to a position to go for that plant. Then they can play retake later on. We'll have to see, though. As with library control seeded, 4 AM will move in quite quickly within the first 45 seconds. Same could be said for Bar and Games. As DAYSTAR are looking to try and win this on the eastern side of the map in kitchen, dining, and Master Bedroom office, where now some work is being done to hollow it out.
And it's a brilliant pick from Gotti here, playing on the Brava. So you've got so much gadgetry to go through there. There's plenty for those Brava drones to be hacking away at. It is just going to be another set of eyes to try and clear some of the path. Tough position right now that Bimbin finds himself in. Has got a bit of support though. Pikanzu can sort of aggress out and keep an eye on the snow balcony. He's not really going to want to go and press his face right up against that double, but he's at least going to be able to give a bit of support to his teammate that's just stuck in behind the half wall right now with basically nowhere to go. Bimbin's best hope right now is to get away with 1 kill at the very best.
At best hope is to get the refrag at this point. Oh, an attempt at a flank from Souffle, doesn't find it. Binbin swings out, but again gets traded in the process. That clash aggressing for so long might end up biting DAYSTAR. Really good utility usage by 4 Angry Men. It's given them a consistent advantage. And even if they don't kill Souffle, they know that at least for the moment, he's off-site. That means kitchen dining is a 4v2 at the moment. And maybe if you can get somebody over to West Main, you could cut off that position as well. Can't really do a lot of bottom to top plant denial as this Solus. Your really main avenue is going to be top to bottom. Reloading. The defense still has control of it, but even the Aruni's been pushed back. She can fight an angle with that DMR, but lacking the control, you wanted to get that Solus into position. Now you can't. Now Solus is the only one left defending the site rather than retaking it, rather than playing some off spot. She's the lone defender. And any reaction from DAYSTAR, we are still waiting.
It needs to happen, doesn't it? And it needs to happen quite quickly. Clash there, just getting caught a little bit of a stretch too far. If you bring in the Clash, that's such a powerful operator. You'd have been better off making that play with anybody but the Clash, really, when you think about it, because it just leaves you so vulnerable, and you're just a little bit too slow when you start moving around and trying to, you know, think about aggressing. As soon as you're outside, you're just getting pinged, and it can be a very difficult spot to be in. Likewise, we saw Pikanzu. He was in a bit of a tough spot there as well on the Thorn, and you just start to think, are they just finding themselves consistently out of position here? And it does just feel like 4 Angry Men are again 1 step ahead. And I think it is purely down to this preparation. We need to see a little bit more flexibility. It was a good play, really, that we saw Pikanzu, that we saw Bimbin attempt there. It was Pikanzu on the Clash, excuse me. It was a good play to try and burst out of the breach and pick 1. If he'd got 2 there, we might be sat here calling him the hero. But it didn't happen, did it? Only gets away with the 1, and it never really had too much of a consequence onto the round. 4 Angry Men take a lead here. This is where things start to get very dangerous indeed. Only 2 rounds away from closing out this series.
With 3 good attacks in a row. The reaction you mentioned we're hoping to see from DAYSTAR, still waiting. And if we just keep waiting, obviously they might lose. But also the more important and pressing matter is we start feeling like they weren't entitled to that presumption that
10 seconds to go.
it might not come, of course, but that these rounds really, as you said, might just be issues that are consistent rather than something they might be able to fix. These little mistimings that we saw yesterday on Bank would end up costing them their time in Salt Lake City, despite their excellent performance on Clubhouse, despite also a good start on Nighthaven Labs in the grand scheme of things, and a great start here. These next 2 rounds might be their last at the Salt Lake City Major. The 4 Angry Men might be moving on to play Los in our final game of the day. All they need are 2 rounds to do so. At least the first site will be attacking Master Bedroom and Office. The Daystar will attempt again. Some similarities. We've got the Aruni back in the lineup, but obviously because the Clash is banned, can't bring her a second time. So the Castle enters the fray. We've got the Ella and the Mozzie to get a little bit of roam pressure for both of these, or for this defense. So the Monty drops down. Human Drone applying a little bit of passive pressure to these defenders. Then the Bearing 9 to follow up. Rockstar good for 1. Can't even land the trade. He gets both of them. That's just extra credit. At that point, he didn't need to do it. There were 3 players in that room. Any of them could have got the kill. Instead, it's Rockstar, player we haven't talked about all that much. Now 11-5, and Daystar in another disadvantage.
Rockstar's been a quiet, quiet worker this game, hasn't he? 11-5 right now, double positive, and you just feel like they are, like you say, just chipping away. And it's, Gotti's not stepped up, Lida's not stepped up in the same way that we've seen him do previously, and Rockstar's gone, yeah, you know what, guys, I've got this one. I'll get myself a couple of kills, and worked out quite well for him. That double, particularly, really just opening this round like a tin. Round number 10. Not going to be easy to come back from that, especially when you've got Lida on that monster that's going to start bearing down here. Gotti grabs one over onto Bimbin. I mean, Lida can just basically push through and give exact coordinates as to the location of these final couple of players. Deathmark Tracker going out, a plant to secure the round, even though it's 5 versus 2, not taking any chances. Darsley from there on the corner. The plant will be stopped, however, but it's still a 1 versus 4.
Still 1 versus 4 and still 1 minute 8 seconds remaining, and the final Deathmark Tracker goes out. So any kind of impact Souffle might have had, it won't be found here. Got to wait a little bit longer. Got to wait for that tracker to run out, but the Monty now rotating over, blocking his entrance, his path of ingress up the blue stairs. Will hopefully knock that shield back. There we go. That's something. 1v3. I'm not calling rounds early. I learned my lesson earlier. So I'll hear him out on this one. One player, I believe, to his right on the library side, or might have rotated out. Yeah, Gotti prone, looking through the castle barricade. The other 2 players more in the bedroom position will be taken down. 4 Angry Men now, 4 rounds in a row. Map and series point. And Daystar 1 round away from our first team eliminated.
It's been a very attacker-sided Chalet so far today, hasn't it? And it's, I mean, we sort of hypothesized this a little bit, saying that, you know what, the game, it's in a bit of an attacker-favored state at the moment. Just a little bit. And regardless of the fact that the Snake's been banned, regardless of the fact that Groom's been banned, there's just still so many toys to play with. The Monty has just been available throughout all of these games so far, and it's a massive pushing factor. Brilliant crossfire there being held by 4 Angry Men. They knew that they could afford to throw the Monty's life at just harassing and wasting another few seconds out of the Mozzie there to secure that round. Keeping to that win condition, making sure that they got the plant down despite having a huge man count advantage as well, not leaving anything to chance. And finally, we're starting to see a little bit of life out of this 4 AM team on the attack. As you mentioned, Lynx, 4 rounds in a row, looking now to make it 5 to secure not only this map, but the series.
We'll have to still wait for that reaction from Daystar, maybe see some kind of adjustment. In terms of the operator lineup, not a big change overall. Do you see the Valkyrie for the first time this half, though? Give them maybe some more information to work with if they want to push off that site. It's bar games again. So you will have defenders that maybe want to go over into like the Master Bedroom Office side. You see Kitchen Dining barricaded, so probably not that portion. Would likely be the second floor we see any defenders roaming on. It seems to be where some are right now. We can't quite tell who they are. One player even tucked inside of the library corner. Capitão not even banned this time, but not being brought by 4 Angry Men either. And, well, they have a 6-8, so they could recreate the Capitão in the aggregate for the secondary utility.
Yeah, you're not quite going to get the fire and smoke in full force, but you're going to get a little bit of smoke dispersion when the nade goes off, and you're going to get plenty of explosives if you start throwing those in as well. TX is going to be looking to try and work through this dining room area now. Has got some good information Knows that there's going to be some Valkyrie cameras out there. Gotti doing his work on that IQ scanner to make sure that the path is nice and clear for his teammates. TX is firmly on a bit of backstab duty right now. Difficult position to see the Sledge in. You'd expect them to be playing a bit more vert, swinging that hammer around. But in this instance, he could just have a really nice challenge, especially when he starts thinking about challenging on from dining over toward site a little bit more. And he's just going to wait for the rest of the team to be in position. It's going to be players like Pikanzu that he's looking to challenge onto on that long corridor.
Exact kind of player he wants to find. Not a whole lot of presence for DAYSTAR in reality over on this side of the map. Though Darsley taking a lot of damage. I don't even really know from where. Probably from the player on Mezzanine, given I think that's the Rooney with the DMR playing over in that position, and that makes sense how Darsley lost so much HP that quickly. Monty pressing out, impact grenade. Ooh, that does actually quite a lot of damage to Lyda. Now, if you want to see DAYSTAR win these next 2 rounds, push it to OT. The fact that you've got 2 attackers, one of which kind of important, put below 50% this early on. Ooh, and Lyda even ADSing. Caught out by Supplé, though. Gotti quick with that trade. Now looking for the next. Another player on low HP. The defense going to support as well. Azuki should be able to win that. Win the next as well. Finishes the player he softened up earlier. And TX, who was going for this flank, telegraphed it so long ago to us. He's able to confirm the kill on the downed player, but still taken down from below. Bin quick with that Scorpion, and Azuki good for 3. 50% of the job done. DAYSTAR just need 1 more for OT.
Just a little bit sloppy there from 4AM, wasn't it? Default camera left up, not really with a good idea of how they want to deal with the player. They had 6 nades. We didn't see that shield taken until after the Monty's de-shielded and trying to ping him with a live shot from behind the shield. Like, the synergy wasn't quite there in the same way that we've seen it there in previous rounds. And the reason we call it out is because 4AM have won 4 rounds in a row on the attack. They've looked fantastic so far, and it just looks like they've entirely taken their eyes off the ball there for what was round number 11.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, we still have 3 nades remaining as well, so you can still foresee maybe some utility getting used. But, I mean, Azuki, just a menace in the mezzanine with that DMR. Puts Darsley to 1 HP, then gets 3 kills after that. Really impressive stuff, and the exact kind of player you want in that position. So another attempt from 4 Angry Men to close this out. Kitchen and Dining could be the last site. Could be the first of a few more if DAYSTAR can match their success in round 11. We have a Maestro. I do not think I have seen a Maestro. At least I don't remember. But I don't feel like I've seen a Maestro in like a year. At least in the game I've casted, I mean.
It's an oldie but a goldie, isn't it? And I think it just gets sort of snuck in at opportune moments. We've even already seen 4AM playing a little bit of Brava, and typically Maestro is inviting a Brava pick from the attack. You've got the Flores, you've got other ways of dealing with it in this instance, but hacking those cameras can be just so valuable. It gives you a lot of information and, of course, the ability to get in there and use the camera. So don't always see it brought out, but it's going to give it a little bit more information over toward DAYSTAR. That's obviously what they're feeling like they are needing a little bit at the moment. That and maybe the Alder, just to hold down some of those really lengthy gunfights potentially that Soufflé's finding himself in, but it's more likely going to be for that camera utility. We'll have to see where some of those get placed out when we get further into the round. We've got a full reinforcement as well, as Seal's going to be playing that Bandit, and he's entirely locked off upstairs. Not even got line of sight typically open toward the Ivy side of things. So Library is just free for the taking right now, and it doesn't look like 4AM are going to waste too much time getting themselves into that position.
No, the office wall falls pretty quickly. Long angle created by 4 Angry Men. Though, of course, the player to watch be Bin with the DMR, who can better challenge this angle than anybody else. A long one from all the way behind the bed. Though we'll see if 4 Angry Men spot this. They might even anticipate it, but this is just a difficult angle to hit, even if you know it's coming. Soufflé all the way on Solar Stairs. Can play comfortably, also relaying information to the defense that nobody's on these windows presently, and as we can see, no attacker even on those windows whatsoever. Some calming occurring, potentially trying to set up for this bedroom push, as with 1 more concussion, 1 more impact, might be trying to make something happen. Castle Barricade goes down, looking to find somebody on the opposite side, but with nobody there. 4 Angry Men still looking for ideas.
Yeah, I think they were hoping to really catch someone off guard there. A little bit of a 1-2 play from Rockstar and Gotti. Destroy the barricade, immediately have someone there to try and look through to see if they can catch somebody out. But it has been a slower approach round. Something that's going to make it even slower is the introduction of a Tuberal, those Zoto canisters. Hazuki's got 2 of them left in pocket as well, so he's going to be able to chew through a good portion here if that is something that isn't able to be dealt with. And with no nades, it isn't going to be the easiest thing to try and work with. Now, you could look to try and shoot it through the floor, get it upstairs inside of office, but it looks like that position's largely been given up. Yeah, sure, the wall's open. It's not going to be so easy for the defenders to play up there. I think the DAYSTAR are thinking about this in levels. They've got players even below now with C4s ripped and ready to try and work through that hatch potentially. Big kill there from Hazuki. Not taking any chances. Will send his C4 out, but gets caught in his own Zoto.
Oh, and they find the next player inside of the site. 4 Angry Men good for 1. It seemed like with how many protocols there were, DAYSTAR were destined to win this one, but Rockstar somehow found a way in. 4AMF somehow found an advantage, but with intel on this diffuser with 10 seconds remaining, oh, it falls too short! He doesn't do a lick of damage to Rockstar, but DAYSTAR still have some fight. Leveled it to a 3v3, but because of that failed C4, 4AM can now back out. Hold this long angle on the breach. 2 players in fireplace, but a player locked down right around the corner. And so Pikanzu pushes deeper. 1 player up top, 1 player down below, but Darsley takes him. And Souffle in the 1v2 caught on ADS and can't flick in time. 4 Angry Men finish things 5 rounds on the attack. They'll go on to play Los, and DAYSTAR are your first team eliminated from Salt Lake City.
Only a small blip there from 4 Angry Men, only losing 1 of those attacking rounds, but otherwise coming out with an extremely convincing showing. Darsley, Rockstar, both putting in massive performances there. Rockstar was the one that we were talking about, and then Darsley just comes out of nowhere in the last few rounds and gets himself up onto 13 kills.
Really impressive stuff. And I mean, obviously Darsley also, 9 and 5 when he first kind of made point of Rockstar. 2 players locking in towards the end of that series, and 4 Angry Men, of course, being our victors. Overall, I feel like we've talked about everybody at some point today, maybe TX being the only one, but really good showing. We'll, of course, go on to play Los later on today, as they'll go and congratulate DAYSTAR, your first team eliminated from Salt Lake City. Shame, as that performance on Clubhouse was really quite excellent, and even then, their performance on Chalet, especially at the beginning, Ollie, really quite commendable.
There have been some bright moments from DAYSTAR, haven't there? And I think that you can see that they've been putting in some work. You can see the vision of what they are trying to achieve with this roster. But it's just a little bit too unpolished. There's not quite that same level of conviction. And 4 Angry Men today coming out the winners. They will be advancing to a game against Los later on this afternoon. We're going to cut to a